To advise those present at this meeting of the Board of Education of the Pinelands Regional School District in the County of Ocean that adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. The notice has been posted in the Board of Education office, the junior high school, and high school buildings. The notice was also mailed to the Press of Atlantic City and filed with the municipal clerks of Bass River Township, Eagleswood Township, Little Lake Harbor Township, and the Borough of Tuckerton. Mr. Brown, roll call.
Mr. Bonnicky. Ms. Hannadel.
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki.
Here.
Ms. McVeigh.
Here.
Ms. Baldino.
Here.
Ms. Pakmakua.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Ernst, Mrs. Ernst, and Ms. Chambers.
Here.
I'm good there.
We have a quorum.
All right, under item 4, executive session, resolved that the Board of Education meet in closed session to discuss matters as listed below. Items so discussed will be disclosed to the public, providing it does not violate New Jersey statutes and regulations regarding disclosure of information affecting this matter. And we'll be going in for approximately 1 hour to discuss negotiations, attorney-client communications, and personnel. Do I have a motion to go into executive?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of executive?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? In executive session.
Should we leave?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we're going to go down. Motion to come out of executive session.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? We're in.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Before we have the flag salute, I just want to mention that Mrs. Ernst is not here tonight, so I will be her replacement. Lucky me. But anyway, we wish her well. She will be back for the next board meeting. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Donio from our legal department. Amy Haupt wasn't able to make tonight's meeting, so welcome, Will. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to see you. He was our former board solicitor, and he's back to join us tonight. Can we all rise for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item 5 on the agenda, approval.
I have a motion to amend the agenda to add personnel item B20. A motion to approve Gina Frasca as Assistant Superintendent for the period July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, with a salary of $131,000 as per the attached contract, pending verification of formal written approval from the Executive County Superintendent. Can I have a motion to accept?
Motion. Second.
Mr. Bonnicky?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mr. Kabricki?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
Mrs. Palladino?
Yes.
Mrs. Papakua?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, but I think it would be B21 because we have B20 already.
Thank you for that. Noted that this item will be D21. Mr. Ernst is absent. And Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under item
I'm sorry,
6.
I don't have a B20. Look on your online agenda, you have that one up?
Okay.
You have
I
a
know
prior
too.
printed
I have
version?
I'm sorry, my
That was moved.
apologies.
It is B20.
We have,
For clarification, that's item B20 on the agenda.
I'm sorry,
You good? Okay. All good. All three of them.
but it's on this one. It's on that, okay.
Okay. Under item 6, approval of the minutes, item 6A and B.
A note on this as well, my apologies, Board of the, we've updated this record in the formal copy to note that Ms. Chambers voted no on D6I, and the official minutes will reflect that change. There's no change in that motion passing. Are there any questions on this, on approval of minutes?
I had
Miss-
one question.
Yep.
It was just the way it was worded. I'm trying to find it, sorry. What was section? That's right. Yeah, I just asked me to change it. Just, it's not a sentence. It's the comments about Bass River and the trip to Washington. And it was, it's all messed up in the comments.
Are they minutes, Karen?
It's just in minutes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a complete
All
sentence.
right, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Bonnicky?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mr. Kabricki?
Yes, on items A2, B1, abstain on A1, I did not attend the organizational meeting.
Abstaining, got it. Okay. Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes on A, abstain from B, I was not there.
Mrs. Palladino?
Yes.
Mrs. Papakua?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Chambers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Under item 7, we have the report of the superintendent, so I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. McCooley.
Thank you. Okay, I have a few items on my superintendent's update. First is the Gifford Town Road bog. I know there's been some questions in the community about what the school district is doing with it. We are planning on repairing the dam and filling the water up again. It's been a process. We did have to lower it for now to make sure that it wasn't overflowing into our school, just so the community knows as well that when it would overflow, it would actually come into the commons area. So with all the renovations that we're doing, we want to make sure that nothing gets ruined when those renovations take place. I did meet multiple times with Mr. Balone and the township to try to get some assistance from them in terms of helping us out with their engineer to cut some of the financing down. So they did have an engineer go out and look at it and sent me an email basically giving me a summary of what they thought it would cost to fix it. So the survey would cost anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000. The hydraulic study would be $20,000 to $30,000. The conceptual design from an engineer would be anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. And then the construction plans and permitting could range anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. Now, as I said, these are estimates at this point. So I have been going back and forth with a really helpful parent in the community that works for Rutgers. She's put me in contact with some other people that are going to try to help out. And Mr. Balone did have a local construction company offer to go out and look at it just to see how to, if they repaired it, how much it would cost. If we didn't have to get an engineer and completely redo it, how much it would cost just to repair what we have. So we are moving along with this. I don't want the community to think that we're at a standstill and we're leaving it that way. We just want to make sure that our school is protected and that we, move forward in the most financially efficient way. So as an update on that, I know that the board had asked me to get a survey together in regards to the junior prom and who would want to take a bus if it were provided, whether that be a school bus or a charter bus. So Mr. Bannon was nice enough to do that for me, and we had about 46 participants at this point, and when asked if they would like to take what mode of transportation they would prefer, 80% did say they would prefer their own mode of transportation. Then the other question was, would you be willing to pay an additional fee to have transportation provided to and from the junior prom? 70% said no, and 30% said yes. So we only had 46 participants at this point. I could, work on getting some more and getting some more data, but we did send out an initial survey on that. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the second reading tonight of the Honoring Pupil Achievement policy. And I do have some additional data on that. The staff was surveyed. We had 68 responses, so that was a good response rate. And they were asked if they agreed with the class rank being finalized at the conclusion of this senior year instead of at the midpoint. 92.6% said yes. So we had a small percentage saying no, and then the others saying maybe starting it next year. But 92.6% are in favor of doing it now. If this change is made, when should we put it to effect? Immediately was, it's cut off, was a little over 30%. Next school year was 27.9%. And then the last question was, if you teach seniors, do you feel the effort of the seniors is the same at the end of the year as it is the beginning? And 79.6% said no. I also have some data on, I took some of the top 10 students from last year and pulled attendance data on 4 of them. And, I'm not going to get into student names, obviously, but the 4 that I have here, their attendance, the first marking period was like 3 absences, and when they got into the 4th marking period, that went up to 8. The second student, same thing, 3, 5, 3, and then 8. 0, 10, 0, 5, so that one was a little different. 1, 1, 1, and then 9. So just kind of showing an example of once that class rank was determined, not only are we not getting the effort, but we're also not seeing them come to school as much. And I did, have to point out, it was a wonderful speech, but one of our students that spoke at graduation last year actually said, and we really, and in all capitals really, took advantage of the 20-day absence policy this year. So that was last year. So, the students were well aware that if they had the 20 absences, let's use them because we already have our class rank established and they weren't coming to school as much. The last piece of data that I have, and once again, you're welcome to look at this, but I won't share this because of student names publicly, but I do have the top 10 at the mid-year point last year, and then after class rank was determined, at the end of the year, what that top 10 looked like, and it is significantly different. So the top student would have actually been number 3. if we were to determine class rank at the end of the school year. So I know I had told the board that I would pull some data together on that topic, and that's there for you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Or should I withhold it?
No, it's a discussion, so sure, you can ask a question.
When is the midpoint of this school year?
So,
when does the second marking period, when is it ending or did it end?
so the second, and I don't want to misspeak, I know we have curriculum and Karen was going to stay for this. It was the beginning of January, and I don't want to misspeak,
So it's
Karen.
Already passed.
January 28th.
January 28th. Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other questions on that? All right, the next thing I want to speak about is the school calendar. I just wanted to remind the board that we are going to have a half day on April 19th to make up for that snow day, so we don't have to add it on to the end of the school year. If for some reason, hopefully not, there's another snow day, we're going to eliminate the 19th and just add them on to the end of the school year, and we'll have to adjust graduation. For next year, I did send a draft of that calendar out. We're going to change it a little bit and kind of anticipate snow days. So what we're doing is we're going to say that last day of spring break, I believe it's the 18th next year, that would be 17th. That would be a snow day makeup, and we'll work our way backwards. So the staff is aware, the parents are aware next year that if it snows and you're planning a vacation, we could possibly be back on those days towards the end of the spring break if it snows.
And if that's in there, that's wonderful. The one question I do have, and I think we do a lot of surveys now, that maybe we should survey our staff about the last day, barring snow days, of course, but our last day for staff is on a Monday after graduation. Maybe see if we could do something different for that day. I know we have, the 184 days, but maybe it could be during one of these times that could occur if that's what they wanted. Because it just looks odd to me. We have our graduation and everything, and then all of our staff has to report back the following Monday. I just don't know where they would be with that.
So are you suggesting that they come in on spring break or another time that we're already off?
I'm just saying, I don't know what their input would be on that, but I think it's something worth looking at.
Okay. Yeah, we can,
That's all.
sure, so you're talking for next year.
So I'm just looking at the oddity of Friday, and then they have the first weekend of summer, and then they have to come back Monday.
But that's this year.
No,
No, that's
Next
next year's
year.
proposed calendar.
And I know a lot of it's
1920.
closeout, correct?
Right.
The staff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's what it's utilized for, so.
And it is kind of helpful because project graduation would be on that Friday, then they have the weekend to sleep now, and then they can come Monday fresh and pack up their room. But yeah, we can get some information.
I just think that would be nice.
Okay. And we did have a calendar committee with representatives from the association, administrators, some teachers. So they did have an opportunity that way to give input on the calendar.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I should have added that. Would you still like me to do a survey to the staff on that?
I just think it'd be nice to ask them.
It's very quick, not a big deal. Okay. A couple more things. The JAG and Academy videos are done. Very excited. I did send the JAG one out. They did a wonderful job on that. And we're just making the final tweaks on the Academy ones. And those will be shared through guidance when they go into the classrooms and the students are picking their courses for next year. So, and then once they're finalized, I'd like to put them on the website for parents to see too, because they really did a great job with them. And the last thing I have is questions from the website. I actually did not see a question that came in the day of our board meeting last month, and I apologize to that staff member. But a question was asked about an item that was on the agenda last month about equipment that had been damaged. And I'm just going to read. Some of the questions were, how are they damaged? Were they damaged in the same manner? As far as we can tell, they were both damaged from water. Was the condition that they were in when they were surrendered intentional? From what we understand, it was intentional. Due to the fact that there is more likely information contained on the devices, we did try to pull all the information we could off of them as well. We did turn the devices over to the police when the incident happened. They did try to pull information off of it. They have information. We have some from those devices as well. And then the last thing was, is it part of an investigation? It's really out of our hands at this point. As I said, we were not the one as a school district that actually offered, that actually gave the charge. It came from the police department. So I just wanted to clarify that for that person that asked it. And the last question was, someone had asked if the Board of Education would consider hosting a guest speaker to talk about the opioid crisis and other addictions. They have someone particular that they're looking into, and I'm going to pass the person's name along to the administration. But Karen Kenny informed me that we've had multiple speakers come in, and they do it through the health classes. So I just wanted to answer that person's question, and thank you for posting that, and thank you for giving us the name of that person, and we'll definitely look into it. And that's all I have for my update.
Alrighty. Item B, 7B, monthly attendance support.
Yep, everything else on there is self-explanatory.
Okay.
Mr. Bonnicky did have some questions, and I believe that I cleared that up, correct, Mr. Bonnicky?
You did.
Okay, thank you. And facilities update, I believe we have next.
All right,
Mr.
so
Balloon and
item
Mr. Moore.
7F, we have Mr. Ballone, who is our facilities manager, and Brian, who is actually in charge here of the construction project from Epic. They're going to give us a little bit of an update on how well we're doing.
All set? Good evening, thank you for inviting me. Right now, you can tell we got 3 projects going on right now. One, the masonry project, which if you notice the front of the building, the gym is done, the D-wing is done, the back of the auditorium is done with brick and windows and doors. So we're on to the C-wing, which is the cafeteria and the media center. The last phase is the A-wing, which the back of the A-wing, the brick has been torn off, and you'll notice a little change next week that the front of A will disappear. So we're aggressively going after that. In tune, we're doing the same thing with the interior, with new HVAC, with new doors, new such, and doing electrical upgrades and such with that. The other part that I forgot to mention was there's new signage on the front of the building. There's new signage with a new CAT logo, and that was completed. Over here in the junior high school, we finished up some bathroom renovations upstairs. We're tweaking a few upstairs. And if you go into the gym, there are new scoreboards. So, and the other thing that we're working on with junior high is planning our next phase of summer work that will be starting right after school ends in this section. The last thing, what we have, which is on the agenda tonight, is the parking lot site improvements. We had the bids in. The bids came in fairly what was expected, and they're presented to you tonight. We're right on schedule that we're looking to have it approved. The senior high school will commence roughly around May 1st. Junior high will commence right after graduation, June 24th. And the target date to finish the site and parking lot is August 23rd. So it's going to be a busy summer on both buildings.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Does anybody have a question?
Brian, there was one question from the board, and it was about the temperatures and everything else with affecting the work and the long-term effects of that. But there's different temperatures and everything else when they can apply different products. If it falls under that, we do not apply, and so it's all supposed to be warranted.
The key thing, which is like the exterior, we watch the temperatures. There's certain temperatures that you could do masonry work in, masonry painting. There was a time when we had the polar freeze that we had a tented scaffolding sections done with heating in it. So they've been aggressively working outside.
But it's a legitimate concern, and I just wanted to explain that we are conscious of that and making every effort to be sure that our product is long-lasting. We don't need another headache.
Does anybody have any other questions for Brian or John?
Well, as far as we're concerned, we're working on the locker rooms. We finished painting them, we cleaned them, they're all ready to go. We painted the walls. The ceiling was painted by the contractors. We painted the floor, and we're just tweaking them now, cleaning them up and getting them ready to go. We're ready to go. We want to use them.
Great.
And the 2 new bathrooms here
Yes.
are operational.
Yes, they are.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The scoreboard looks great. The signage out front, Mrs. Ernst has been keeping us up to date with the pictures of everything that's going on. Everything looks great. A couple classrooms look a little naked over there, I will
Yeah.
say, but I'm sure it's...
Wait, it's gonna get...
Yeah, it's gonna get worse, but
Worse.
anyway, it does, it looks great. It really does. I can see the progress every time I
If you
go
go
by.
out front during the day and look, you can actually see near the boiler room over on the side of the
Right.
field there, they're already around with the blue wrap and the gray finish. They're ready to put brick up that far.
Okay,
on
it
that
looks
side.
great. Thank you, gentlemen. No one else
What's
has
our
any
finish date?
August 24th.
August
August
24th?
24th. Yeah.
That's the
For
parking
the
lot.
parking lot.
That's the parking lot.
Well,
No, the whole project.
The whole project is targeting between substantial completion around the end of July, beginning of August, with working with the facility team to start integrating and getting it ready. We're
Of
looking at-
19?
What?
Yes,
Of 19?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
You wanted to go another year?
No.
I think anybody wants
Maybe people
that.
don't know our finish date. I'm asking a line of questioning, so we have some finality. and
That
That'll allow
will
us
be
a couple of
misprinted then.
weeks. What is planned allows us a couple of weeks for anything
Well, no,
additional
as
that
we-
John
we've been
mentioned.
talking, and as the project goes along, and they
You're
get done with
going
the
behind them.
D-wing,
Yeah.
they're gonna turn D-wing over to us, we're gonna get D-wing ready, and then like close it off until we're ready to move the furniture in. But the D-wing will be done, then we'll move to another section, then they turn it over.
Well,
That's our plan.
The plan is to go into the block sections, finish them up, and the last section that we'll try, as you can tell,
Will be the A-wing.
is the A-wing, because this front is just coming down now.
Super.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Good
Thank you.
job. Thank
See
you.
you Thursday.
See you
Thank
Thursday.
you. Okay, item 8, presentations on the agenda. We have quite a few tonight. First one under item A is a presentation by our auditing firm, Holman, Franny, and Allison, and we have Mr. Conier, did I pronounce that right? Conity, okay. Here to give us a little update and a presentation on how well we did at our audit. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Jerry Conity. I'm a partner with Holman, Frenier, Allison. We were engaged to perform the audit of the school district for the year ended June 30th, 2018. We're here a little later than normally. Typically, school board reports are due to the state of New Jersey by December 5th of the year. School districts and governmental entities across the state have kind of been on hold. There's a new governmental accounting standard that went into effect for this year's financial statements. We've been waiting on the state of New Jersey Division of Pension and Benefits to provide reports. They finally provided those reports just a couple weeks ago, so we were able to kind of get everything wrapped up and finished. The report that you have in front of you is the issued and final report. I do know that somebody had brought to our attention that the organizational chart was old, so I had slid in each of the reports that were on the table, the corrected and updated page, so you guys will have a copy of that. I've also provided Mr. Brown with an updated report that does reflect that change, so the official copy that he has reflects that correction. I'm happy to report that we have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. It's the best opinion that we can give, saying that there are no modifications necessary to bring the financial statements compliant with generally accepted accounting principles. I do always like to kind of point out there are two exhibits or schedules in the audit report that if you take nothing else away from tonight, it's the letter of transmittal, which begins on page 1, and the management's discussion and analysis, which begins on page 17. Those two are kind of, they're written from the board's, your administration's perspective, so it gives a little bit more insight behind the numbers. It's a 200+ page report, so you can imagine there's a lot of information. So it kind of takes all that information and boils it down into a very succinct couple-page analysis. We do have on page 103 is the analysis of our fund balance. This is our budgetary fund balance and kind of where the district ended up at year end in terms of what it has moving forward. So there was about $2.76 million in fund balance at year end. Of that, there was some money set aside in the capital reserve to the tune of about $236,000. You guys had also approved utilizing some funds in the 2018-19 budget to the tune of $1.2 million. If you remember back in July of 2018, you had also received notice from the state that they had cut your state aid by about $300,000. The board had approved utilizing an additional about $300,000 to help balance that budget there. Once taken into account encumbrances, which are items that were ordered by the school district at year end but not yet received, was about another $61,000. That's kind of a set aside of your fund balance that is kind of assigned for those purposes. Left you with the maximum fund balance that the district is allowed to have. It's a statutory calculation. Roundabout, it's about 2% of what your expenses are in a given year. So that was about $650,000. After all that's said and done, there was about $291,000 of what's referred to as excess surplus. So what happens is, as the district goes forward, I know Dr. McCooley and Mr. Brown are starting to kind of put together the budget for the 2019-20 school year. That $290,000 number will be the minimum that the district is required to utilize to help balance the budget going forward. All right, so like I said, I know Dr. McCooley and Mr. Brown are already kind of working towards that and utilizing some of those funds to help balance the budget. On page 207, I just want to turn your attention to, we do have some additional reporting elements and things that we have to report according with. Since we're a governmental entity, we're required to follow what's referred to as Yellow Book or government auditing standards. It's an additional layer of testing that we need to perform. We're also required to perform what's referred to as a single audit. Since we expend so much money in federal and state aid, additional layer of testing on compliance requirements that are put forth by the grantors for specific grants that we've selected for testing. One of the items that we did have a finding in this year's 2018 audit report, and it's related to capital assets. There were some capital assets that were determined that they were scrapped during the year, and kind of the scrap proceeds were kind of being held to utilize for purchases for that department. So it's something that when Mr. Brennan was here, we had been discussing, and Mr. Brown kind of caught up to speed as he was here as well. Just making sure that those are kind of going through a centralized process. Again, this way the purchasing is all kind of run through your purchasing department. I know Mr. Brown has already implemented corrective action on those. We've also talked about that. This is the second year that we've had a comment on the capital assets consecutively. So I know we've talked about some different internal controls and procedures and processes for moving forward to really kind of make sure that we button up those procedures and those processes and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So with all that being said, I know that there's, like I said, I think there's a corrective action plan on the agenda for tonight, which has already been put into place. Mr. Brown's already kind of been working on implementing that. And we'll continue to do so moving forward, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any for me.
Board, anybody have any questions? Kim?
I have a couple of questions. Page 21. I'm confused by, but Nick sort of explained it to me. I asked him, but I wanted to see if I wanted to just run it by you as well. It seems like we had excess budgeted revenues by 81,000. That whole general fund budgeting highlight thing, I didn't know where that money came from. It sounds like it came from the interest.
So yes, well, $81,000. So you had budgeted for about $30.6 million worth of revenues, and after accounting for what's referred to as non-budget items, so items that are kind of passed through the state, we're just required to record it as a revenue and expense, came to $81,000 to the positive. So where those items were, just unrestricted miscellaneous revenue, about $7,000 to the positive on tuition, about $2,000 positive on rents and royalties. Also additional extraordinary aid. Got about $20,000 more in extraordinary aid for the year. So those were really kind of the main drivers behind the increase in the revenues.
So it's basically just the way the state tells you we have to account for them, correct?
No, I think that's our actual
That's your
dollars that are in
actual-
excess of our budget.
Correct, yes. Your actual revenues came in $80,000 higher than where the district had budgeted.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, good.
And then on the flip side, that next paragraph, your expenditures and your appropriations, your expenditures were less, your actual was less than what you guys had budgeted for. And that is something that we do look at. school districts in New Jersey, it's actually statutory regulation that you're not allowed to overexpend even a single line item in your budget, whereas there's some other governmental entities that may just be can overexpend this category as a whole. For a school district, it's each line item. So we do look at that as well, and the district was under budget in each of the line items.
Okay. Does that go back to the number on the 103 then? On 103 with
Yep,
the
so
200?
essentially, yep, so
Okay,
that
so that's
$80,000 in excess kind of falls down to your fund balance. Any under expenditures on your expense side, anything that you didn't necessarily spend in there kind of falls down into that surplus number as well.
Okay, great. And then the other one was page 72, I think. The negative number on 2022.
Yep.
I don't get, well, actually, it's 20323 as well, so.
Yes. So what these items are is there was a new governmental, well, it's not new anymore, but governmental accounting standard that went into effect back in, this went actually into effect in 2015. That there's required to be actuarial calculations done of what the district's pension costs would be. And those are required to be accrued in the financial statements and disclosed. So what happens is actuaries from year to year, they make changes to the assumptions and the actual versus what there was projected. There's differences there. So what happens is those costs are amortized over a 5-year window. Those changes in those assumptions, those changes in the actual versus what was projected. So that's what that is. Those are just showing you when the amortization of those differences will occur over the next 5 years.
Are they pretty right? Or are they just guesses? They're actuarial table considerations, basically. If such and such happens at such and such time, basically.
They're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it. If you flip to page 113, you can kind of see, obviously there's a lot that goes into it. And for the actuaries, they're using their best guesses behind things, but they can't predict the future anyway. So you can kind of see there's some big swings from year to year behind this. So in 2014, that liability was estimated to be $9.5 million. Well, the next year it was 9.4. We were kind of consistent. And then all of a sudden their estimates started changing a little bit. Went up to 11.6. 2017 went up to 15.8, down to 11.9 again. So they're kind of all over the map just based on whatever the returns are at that point in time and their best guess as to what's going on in the future. So I do want to point out, this is not something that the district has to fund right now. You guys are on a pay-as-you-go basis. You're paying the bills as the state's providing them to you. I know sometimes it's kind of daunting when you see some of these numbers out here, but they're over the lifetime of all the employees that are in the district or retired from the district. That's what those actuarial estimates are. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr.
This might be a strange question, but in simplistic terms, how would you characterize the financial management of our district over the past year based on the audit?
It's something, I think that the district's in very good financial shape. I think that the district, obviously, the cuts in the state aid over the past couple of years has been a tremendous weight. I know that's something Mr. Brown and I have kind of been speaking about of how do you position yourself going forward knowing that revenue's cut. You guys had to dip into your surplus in years past to kind of help fill that gap. Well, now that money's not there and that revenue isn't there anymore. So, you know, I know that you kind of have some struggles ahead of you to figure that out. You know, Mr. Brown and I really kind of harped, and his team, when they first started, we came down and we sat down and we sat for about 2 hours, I think, the first day, going through a lot of different things and kind of updating him on different things from what we've seen, really trying to make sure that our controls are strengthened. I know obviously with turnover in the business administrator position, turnover in the beginning of the year anyway, in the superintendent position. So making sure that all those items are buttoned up, that maybe some temporary controls that were put in place in the beginning of the year, that we're making sure that we're really, the segregation of duties are still there and they're still strong, and we're really kind of adhering to all those things. And it is something I think we've talked about of you know, our firm is definitely available should you want to kind of delve further into those internal controls and look at some of the policies and procedures and things like that. You know, we're here as a resource for you guys in whatever aspect that we can. So if there's any guidance that we can help lend to you guys, and that's what we're here for.
Any other questions? I know in the past, your firm has interviewed a board member for the budget season. Was that done? I'm not aware of any of this.
That was me.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we did spend, I think twice we actually
Okay.
spoke.
Yep.
Yeah, so he was very helpful in answering some of my questions, and I see some of the similar comments in the link.
And we also spoke, I know obviously that the board as a whole had a lot of concerns, and there was a lot that's been going on at the district this past year and a half or so. So we also did speak with President Ernst as well, just to kind of get her input as well, and any concerns that she has to make sure that we're addressing those through our audit procedure. So yes.
Thank you for sharing that. And Karen, thank you for adding your input. Appreciate it. All right, if there's no other questions, Mr. Conate, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, moving on under presentations, item B, New Jersey CUSAC report. Dr. Stevenson.
Hi.
Hi.
I will be very brief. The PowerPoint that you have attached in the board agenda is pretty self-explanatory. So in the interest of time, Phil's feverishly putting that up. Basically what this is an interim report that is done after a full CUSAC visit. So last year, if you remember, we had a full CUSAC visit. This was a follow-up to that with the application of the new standards on what we're currently doing, which was not supposed to happen until another 3 years. So you'll get another full CUSAC visit in 2020-21. So this visit was an interim review under the new statutes, which we would be evaluated on in 3 years, if that makes sense. If you remember from the last reports that the data that was used to determine instruction and program was old data from the New Jersey Ask in 2014 because we were under the old statute and under the old format for CUSAC. Well, that was updated, and you know that there are different DPRs that are done, fiscal, personnel, instruction and program, and if you receive something below an 80 in instruction and program, which we did, which is based on test scores from 2014, then you have to have a district improvement plan, which we have been under for the past 3 years. So every 6 months I had a nice friendly visit from the State Department to review. This friendly visit resulted in us getting out of a district improvement plan because of the improvement in our state mandated scores, our test scores for the PARCC exam. So the scores got us out of trouble. So we are no longer under a district improvement plan with the State Department, which is really good news for us. That means, you know, my successor doesn't have to deal with the State Department coming in to examine and approve all the cases again. So just real quick so you understand with instruction and program, because it was the one that was under 80, the first 1 to 7 indicators are all based on student achievement scores. So we have no control over that other than the fact of what the state reports to us, those indicators. And there are links in this PowerPoint that take you right to the rubric that is, the new rubric that is there and how they determine that. One of the indicators is just us reporting the results to the public. Numbers 9 through 15 are all based on the existing curriculum, which was under review. And number 16 is based on the interventions and academic supports that you have. So that's how they determine the scores for an instruction and program. So if you real quick look, there's the initial review back in 2018. You will see we had a 72%, and the interim review, because of our test scores, bumped us up to an 81%. And all the others are above 80, so they were not under review. Okay, so 41 out of the 60 in the student achievement scores is where we are, which was enough to get us out of trouble. And you see curriculum policy was a perfect 40 out of 40. So the student achievement scores are what made the difference, which are the PARCC, math, and English language arts, and science. So basically that's the story. Graduation rates, attendance rate, and subgroup scores is what they come up with the student achievement scores. So we're no longer under that plan, and next review is 2020, and it'll be a full CUSAC review. That would be it. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
I won't be here for the next one.
I will not be here for the next one, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stevenson.
You're welcome.
All right, item 8C. Do we have any student representatives here from the junior high school and high school? Okay, great. Hi, guys. And who do we have? What's your?
I'm Eric Lundstedt.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Ben.
Hello. My name is Eric Ciccarelli,
And Ben Martin.
and we are the 7th grade student council. It has been a busy year. In November, 7th graders at Frog Pond began their PBSIS program. The Positive Behavior Support in Schools is an intervention intended to improve the climate of schools using system-wide positive behavioral interventions to encourage and highlight positive behaviors. Students are given tickets for exhibiting positive behaviors, and a name is drawn each week for an award. We would like to thank Walmart and Wawa for their donations and awards.
Class of 2019 is hosting another Mattress fundraiser on Saturday, March 30th at the Junior High School Gymnasium from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The sophomore class will be selling day tickets to Mooring Piers and water parks at a heavily discounted rate. Please reach out to a council member or Mrs. Irvin and Mr. Whiteman for more information. Savvy Soap fundraiser in order to help fund the 9th grade semi-formal. The soaps come in packs of 3, are handmade, all natural, no chemicals, and health conscious. We have some photos. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Good job. All right, under presentations, item D, PTSO. Mrs. Molesky, anything you want to add? Yes. Tell us about the great things that you're doing.
Okay, we're trying. Okay, so, hello everybody.
Hi.
I did print out for you our March newsletter so that you would have that. Also, you have a possibility for a remind. I'll give you one as well because I want a little blurb in the paper. PTSO, we are really doing some great things in our school. Our big event that we're about to take on is April 16th. We're doing a career day / job fair here at the junior high from 6 to 8. We already started planning. A lot of companies and businesses that are looking for help or interested in celebrating their career are going to come out. We also have been working with Gina Frasca with the seniors because they do internships within local community members, and they're going to have presentations that evening as well. So that's really about it. That seems so little, but there's a lot going on with that. So I have the agenda. I have also our code for TD Bank, if anybody's interested in that. We do get money if you associate your account with the PTSO. And I also have a letter for businesses as well that you can take and help pass out, post it, take a picture of it, put it on Facebook, and what have you, okay? And we're still selling our Naples gift cards, okay? All right.
Great, and you have a meeting coming up?
We have a meeting March 5th.
5th.
Yes,
And
coming up.
is that's here?
That's
fine.
here, yep, in this room.
Okay, at 6?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Great things happening. Thank you,
Yep,
Michelle.
you're welcome.
All right, moving on. Presentation on therapy animals by Ms. Barr and Ms. Molesky.
Get ready for Q.
They're what?
Get ready for Q. The dog is so cute.
Where'd the dog go?
The dog is coming back.
Oh, good, I hope so. Oh, there's really a dog here?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Oh. Yes. So Ms. Barr is passing out to you binders that we made up about pretty much the presentation, just so that you can have it. But if you are going to discard it afterwards, after you look through it, please feel free to recycle it with us because we will use it for our presentation. Okay, so for a long time now, I have been asking Mr. Shore about doing some therapy dogs within our school. It's a big trend, socially, emotionally, with our standards. That has a lot to do with why we're doing this presentation. We came up with the acronym TAILS. The acronym, there's our pup, one of our dogs that is in training currently with Ms. Barr. We came up with the acronym TAILS, Therapy, Animals, and Learning Spaces. So if you want to, you can pass, go ahead, say hi to everybody. really quick. So we were sitting around and Kelsey and I got together because we both feel strongly about this and we wanted to present it to the board. And we came up with, my daughter actually came up with the acronym TAILS, and we knew therapy, animals in learning, and we were stuck. And Mr. Bannon actually came up with spaces, and we're like, golden, that's exactly what we decided. So TAILS is the program. You want to just push? Okay, there we go. Okay, so basically the mission obviously is to bring comfort and smiles to our school. A therapy dog is different than a service dog. A service dog actually services a person and whatever disability they may have. A therapy dog is more encompassing of the entire school district. Our biggest issue that we see, that we talk about with our school-based youth services, our 504 counselors and whatnot, is student anxiety, student depression, absenteeism, being absent, and then unhappy climate. Our solution would be our therapy dogs. And again, this presentation is in your binder. We all know that everybody was really excited to see dogs. When we did our presentation with the staff, we had about 50 staff come out to look at our presentation, and they absolutely were so happy that we were doing it, and we're really sad when the dog didn't come that day. And we're like, this is the reason why we really want. Endorphins are important, and smiling makes people happy, and dogs do that. There are all kinds of studies that Kelsey and I have been researching for a while now, and they're up there about our research that we found and how it can increase higher levels of our grades and academic success. A lot of colleges bring therapy dogs onto campus right before testing time because they know that the correlation of being happy and doing well in the test anxiety, students actually do a lot better on their scores. Obviously, these are our New Jersey state standards for social and emotional learning. I'm not going to sit and read them to you, but basically that's where the therapy dogs would come under that particular state standard that we can address. Therapy dogs, they make us happy. They pretty much, this is all scientific proof, and at the end of the PowerPoint as well as in your brochure, there is all the data that supports this and the websites that are available so that you can actually see this. But this is the general gist that, it increases endorphins and it helps us just be happy. Our positive impacts, the ASCD.org, a journal, which is a pretty big journal, talked about this and how with our PBSIS, which is what we do in our 7th grade program, can help with the rewards and incentives and attendance as well. So the data is all there to prove it. We did get some quotes from different teachers throughout the school district in reference to special education, self-contained, and how the dogs could help in their classrooms. So again, you can read that at your leisure. I don't think anybody really needs to hear every little bit, but we all know that this is the purpose. Adopted PE, this is something that the studies have shown that therapy dogs participating with the students can help, even apprehensive learners, especially physical. Sometimes it's hard for kids to deal with physical things in school and moving around, and that can help. Our school-based youth services is another big area that we would use our therapy dogs. The workplace, obviously, we are trying to become a choice school. This is something that we wanted to bring to your attention too, that this is something that we could potentially make a program that would help with our workforce writing programs here at Pineland Junior High or Pineland School District. This is basically our timeline. We're doing our presentation. We would like our board approval. We've already started doing some of the visits. Kelsey and I both are currently involved in training our dogs for therapy. Obviously, they might not even pass, but we are continuing to go to training, and there are certain things that have to happen in order for a dog to be part of the TAILS program. The evaluation was $85, and basically Kelsey and I are spending a lot of money. We're spending a lot of money because we do feel firmly into the program, and it is something, in order to get your dog certified, there are certain areas and criteria that we need to achieve, and the certificates would be $120. Here's the board, myself, Becky Weiss, who actually owns Lucky Dog Biscuits. That's where we're doing our training. She does a lot of service dog training, so she's really equipped and she knows what she's doing. Mr. Bannon, obviously high school principal, Mr. Shore, junior high principal, Joanne Feller, who's our student assistant coordinator, and then Kelsey. This is our TAILS board. So it is something we've researched. It is something that we've, thought thoroughly through the process of what needs to happen in order to bring this kind of program to the Pinelands. Again, we go through the training, we get the certification, and then the dogs get actually approved through the board. And there's a process. And in your binder is all of the logistics as far as how we would go about having permission slips for students to participate in the various activities and being in the classroom. This is Southern Regional. They actually have a dog program called Paws, and they've had the program for 15 years. Kelsey and I have been in contact with the teachers that started that program, and they really have been a great liaison with us as far as how they incorporate it, and a lot of our documentation and our legal documentation within the binder we got from them. So it's a program that's worked for them for 15 years. The one question I asked the lady was, what do your naysayers say? What can we be prepared for? And she said, I've never had anybody naysay about having art therapy dogs within the school district. So that was really positive in a 15-year program that we've looked into. Again, quotes from students when we asked students what they would feel about having an animal on campus, and teachers as well. This is Shay. Shay is my 9-month-old homeless paw lab mix. She lives at home with me and other dogs. There she is sitting on Nora's head. That seems to be her favorite position. But she's just a goofball. But she's 9 months old, and most therapy dogs actually start really practicing around a year old. So a lot of people think, oh, and Odie is, Obi is involved, but at the same time, he's still little, so he still has a long process to go. Shay is 9 months old, so we're hoping that she'll be ready to go on a much quicker basis because she'll have that age of being a year. Okay, now we're up to Obi. Basically, he's a 3-month yellow lab. He's from Missouri. His parents were also canine animals, and his siblings are going in the service dog rescue as well. So they look like twins, but one is a mutt and one is a pure breed. So what we really need from the board when we research and we talk to Southern and other school districts is really we just need to add our animals to the insurance policy, and then also we do have a service dog policy, and we have already on record, and we also have animals on the school grounds, but we don't have a therapy dog animal policy. So that would be something we did talk to Dr. McCooley about. It's pretty easy to get. This isn't a new program. This isn't something that we're creating from ground zero, so we could probably get that pretty quickly. And then we talked about doing our own little Instagram for having TAILS so that we can constantly give that positive community involvement and feedback, and we believe in that and having that positive stuff going on. Any questions that you may have? And of course, if you ponder this and then have any, you can reach out to us. Yes?
So next year we'll have 2 buildings open. How many dogs do you envision being part of this program?
And I think that's the one thing we stress to the staff. It wasn't like you could just say, oh, my dog's certified, and we're just gonna say yes to it, and there's 85 dogs on campus. We do have a board for that reason. We have the board of the principals as well as Becky, who would do the evaluations to make sure that the dog could come on there. When we did our presentation for the staff was really interested in being a handler more than going out and spending the money on their own dog and dealing with all of that. So we were really excited that they were excited about having that. So it would be something that Kelsey and I would be doing on our prep. It's not as if I can say, oh, I'm not teaching anymore, or she's not teaching anymore. So we would do it on our prep time. Our goal is to have a few dogs, but again, we want the program to be really successful, so we're all about slow and steady and doing what we need to do and making sure that the process is followed to the T so that we can ensure a great, successful program. So I don't want to put a number on it because I don't know. It really will depend on the staff. I know there's some staff that have animals that are quote unquote certified through therapy organizations, but they would still have to produce that documentation as well as going through our evaluation system that we have with Becky because we built our rapport with her.
How many did Southern have?
Southern currently has 6, and that's a 15-year program. So again, we're not looking to, just have animals more than kids on campus, but we definitely think it's a worthy program. And there's a lot of school districts that are doing it within our area. I know that we talked about going and actually doing some visits with other schools that have the program as well. But we have a Manchester example where there are policies in there. So there's a lot of detailed information within your folder. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, so you said prep time, so it won't be in your specific classrooms, you'll be out doing it in lunch?
Our goal, yes, is for us to be out and about during our prep time so that we can utilize the dog for exactly what it is, for just not only our own students within our classroom, but the students within the whole school district. So
that's great.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, Michelle,
Yes.
is there any thought to getting maybe some of our senior students or upperclassmen involved in this as far as handlers?
We can. I mean, that's something that we can totally do. I know that some of the staff has just asked us about being a handler, and Becky and I spoke about that last week when we were at training. So it's definitely a possibility that we can do that and involve the students.
Is it something that would expand maybe beyond the school where our handlers and dogs that are approved here maybe would go out to the local nursing homes or anything like that?
We could totally do that as well. I know that Kelsey and I have a desire to do that, not only within our school district, but also expanding it because we just feel strongly about it. But that's something we can definitely look into for the students, for the seniors.
Yeah, for the students.
Yeah. We haven't presented it to the kids yet as far as, hey, we're gonna do this. I think once it was, board approved and we said, hey, who would be interested? I really do believe we have a large number of students that would be interested in doing something like that.
He's adorable.
Any other questions?
Happy breath.
Exactly. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, next we have item F, which is our Students of the Month with Mr. Shore and Mr. Bannon in charge of group development.
Good evening, everyone. It is once again my pleasure this month to represent the junior high school and bring to you our Students of the Month. So congratulations once again to our wonderful students and their families. First up, our 7th grade. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Vivian Mozillo, who is our 7th grade Student of the Month. And here is what Miss Willscroft, our short little blurb, had to say about Vivian. I've known Vivian a very long time and have been honored to be able to witness her grow into the mature and responsible young adult that she is today. She possesses an infectious and positive attitude toward her education, athletics, and peers. Vivian is the type of student that reminds teachers why they chose teaching as a profession in the first place. Again, that was written by Miss Willscroft, and it is my pleasure to introduce to everyone our 7th grade Student of the Month, Vivian Mozillo. Vivian. Okay, next up, 8th grader, Alyssa Ruland. Unfortunately, I don't believe Alyssa could make the rescheduled meeting, but here is what Miss Sanford had to say about Alyssa. Alyssa Ruland is a conscientious and dedicated young scholar with extraordinary character. Serving as a positive role model for her peers, Alyssa works diligently to complete her assignments, embraces opportunities to learn from her mistakes, and strives towards excellence each day. So, once again, Alyssa Ruland, our 8th grade Student of the Month. Congratulations once to her. I'll make sure she gets this honor. All right, are you coming up or?
No.
Okay.
Embarrass her tomorrow.
Our 9th grade Student of the Month, big congratulations to Sage Farrow, and here is what Ms. Frasca had to say, a little blurb about Sage. Sage is an all-around great student that is a true wildcat. She cares about her peers and always tries her best to represent Pinelands in a positive manner. So congratulations once again to our 9th grade student of the month, Sage Farrell. I'll make sure you get that. So just real quickly too, all of our junior high school student of the month will get their Wildcat Pride magnet. They get their nice plaque, and a big shout out and thanks to our staff who take time to write a nice little blurb about them. So congratulations once again. And also on the back, you have a free cafeteria item, so feel free to use that. And thank you to Tina and her staff for doing that. And without any further ado, I will pass over to the high school principal, Mr. Bannon. Mr. Bannon?
Sure. Good evening. Sorry, I lose my voice a little bit tonight. So our first student of the month we're going to recognize is our sophomore student of the month, Quinn Moore. I asked Quinn's teachers to write a little bit about her. They said things such as that she's upbeat, funny, always makes you smile. Parents got a better day when Quinn is present. One that stood out in particular was Mr. Perry said that she has all the characteristics that she has, and my daughter someday embodies the same ones. And Mrs. Schaefer said, Quinn is a student in my biology class, and if I own a business, she's exactly the kind of person I would want to hire. Quinn demonstrates a natural ability to lead, has a tremendous work ethic, and always comes to class with a positive attitude. She works well with other students and brings a lot of creativity to the table in working in group setting. If I was a student in my class, I would want to be in her group. Along with being a great student, Quinn is a very mature, kind young lady with a lot of confidence. She has all the qualities to shape a very bright future, and it is my privilege to have her as a student. Congratulations, Quinn. Our junior student of the month is Michael Casey. Michael is said by his teachers to be kind, respectful, responsible, excellent student, great person, polite, conscientious, diligent, positive, always going above and beyond. And his Spanish teacher in particular, Mrs. Ellis, said, Michael walks in my classroom every day with a smile on his face and a greeting for me in Spanish. He never leaves without wishing me a good day. In between, he works hard to make good use of every minute of class. Michael is anxious to learn Spanish and is always focused on understanding the language being used in class. His hand is always the first to go up to answer questions, and is not afraid to ask for help when he needs it. When he asks questions, they're always put in a way that shows he's trying to better understand, not just give answers. It is obvious to me that Michael is highly motivated to use what he's learning outside of class. As a world language teacher, I couldn't ask for more from a student. Michael, congratulations. And last but not least is our senior student of the month, Alyssa Patella. Alyssa's teachers described her as hardworking, respectful, complete joy in class, extremely conscientious, teacher's delight, wonderful student, hard worker, dedicated, great teammate for lab activities, a student that excels at everything she does. It's just what every teacher wishes they had in all their students. And her guidance counselor said, Mrs. Coyer wrote, Alyssa is just amazing. She's not only extremely intelligent, but she's also athletic, hard worker, a leader, and most importantly, a good person. Alyssa dives headfirst into everything that she does, and she does it well. She's also an extremely well-rounded individual who is a competitive member of both the varsity soccer and basketball teams, works part-time, participates in research opportunities outside of school, and volunteers in her spare time. Alyssa is the type of student who makes a school counselor's job easy, and I'm proud to say that she is a Pinelands Wildcat. She represents our school so well and every day. Congratulations, Alyssa. And unfortunately, she could not be here tonight, so I'll give congratulations to all of our students from on tonight, and especially congratulations to the families as well. Thank you for everything you do to make your students who you are. Thank you to the board as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bannon. Mr. Bannon, I think you need some Arnold and some chicken soup. Feel better.
Thanks.
Okay, the board's going to take a brief recess for 3 to 5 minutes. So those of you that need to leave may do so, and then we will reconvene to discuss the rest of the agenda and approve this.
Is that
They're all pulling in service. Yes, exactly. Family that serves.
I feel like that might not happen.
I sure will.
Oh, thank you very much. Great. Year one. All right.
I'm no longer there either, you know?
I didn't know that.
I don't know what part you were at.
Thank you.
Well, you want here or side? Was I right, too?
Yes, you were. You were very right.
Okay. Okay, all right.
We'll see how. That's their tip. That's their song. As soon as Don and Glenn comes about that airport. I didn't say that.
Let it be known, so. Still stop?
Yeah, that's, I'm gonna ask God for
Just needed another couple of lappers.
Okay. Hello, hello?
I don't think you're on.
Okay, we're ready to roll. All right, under item 9, on bid proposals opening. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, this was an encouraging result of the recent RFP for the final phase of construction here at the high school. Phase 3 is a lot of exterior site work, which includes stormwater management, lighting and pathways, things like that. Came in with the alternate bid of just under 1.9 million. Our expectations were 2.5, so it was encouraging to have those bids come in so low.
Great, good. All right, any questions?
Just one comment. I believe we had asked a question and just wanted to share that our engineer was familiar with the firm with the lowest bid and had worked with them.
Yes, that extensive experience with this kind of work, they were comfortable with, I believe it was Command Company, which is Egg Harbor Township, Egg Harbor City.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the report on the bid openings and proposals this evening?
So moved.
There's a motion later in the agenda, right? For the artwork.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
When we award it.
Okay, so moving on then. Okay, item 10, work session. A, board forum. So Board of Ed, if there's any questions you might have on the remaining agenda, now's the time to do it. And we'll just go around the floor and please add anything you want to the discussion. Jeff, would you like to start tonight?
Nothing at this time. Nothing additional.
Stephen?
With respect to the agenda items, there are no questions or comments you made.
Karen?
Yes, first off, I'd like to thank everybody that came. I love the dog therapy, so I know I should not share my opinion, but I will on that one. And then thank you for the staff that put work into that. So look forward to seeing what we might do with that. With regard to agenda items, I do have a specific question. I'll hold it, I guess, until we get to that section of the agenda.
Okay.
If it makes sense. So then I'll pass.
All right. Chrissy?
I have nothing right now.
Betty
I'm
Ann?
good, I'm good, thanks.
Tommy?
I have a question on a specific item on the agenda, and I didn't know if you wanted to hold off till we got to that item, or for discussion under the approvals, or to bring it up now.
Well, if you're okay, do you want to discuss it when we go to the approvals for discussion? Or would you rather do it now?
No, that's fine.
It's up to you.
That's fine, I'll.
I think that's appropriate.
Okay, good. Kim?
Nothing. Thank you.
All right. Michelle and Kelsey, thank you for that presentation. It was awesome. I will, actually, because I did, that's why I went back. I did have a question. So it was great. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to committee, actually, residents forum. No, 10B, you're right, thank you. Just like you're right, no, we're on B, 10B. Under new business, one of our board members, Kim Hanadel, actually went to the conference for national school boards in Washington, D.C. Mrs. Ernst sent us a lot of information that Kim brought back, and she asked to have a few minutes on the agenda tonight just to go over a couple of the highlights that she felt were very important. So, Kim, it's all yours.
Okay, the main thing that came out of it, it was the National School Boards Advocacy Conference, but it was first they had a National School Boards Equity Conference, so they had two. So I went to both, and it was 4 days. It was quite a lot of information, as you said. So basically, we were supposed to, they wanted us to advocate for more special ed funding, basically IDEA. But it was like within 5 minutes, I could tell that we were going to be able, I could play for the Yankees soon, that we were going to get money from Congress this year. So it was kind of odd that way, but at the same time, they wanted to bring it up again since it hasn't been redone since 2004. So it needs to be updated. We're only getting 15% of our money basically, 40%. They're supposed to be paying us 40% of our special ed costs. We're getting 15. So, and I think the biggest thing that came out of it that I thought was worth all of the money and the time, and I did go Airbnb instead of staying at the hotel, which it actually worked out really great, and it was a third of the cost. A lot of the members were talking one day, and one of the things that they said, and Jeff actually mentioned it in his email this morning, that the one thing you should not do is try to become a specialist in special ed. Because it's already, and it's so basic that it was sort of like, why? So I made them all stop and tell me what they were talking about, and they basically said, well, we became specialists and we got everybody, but we are not getting paid for it. So you become the expert, but you don't really, I mean, if you think about the money, it's being funded at 2%, and we're paying 3 times the amount for special ed students than regular students, so there's not really a way to make money. We can talk about it longer, bigger than that, but that was one of the big things. One of the big things too was this keeping the promise to all students. And I sent it to you, the effective educators, and all the information on effective educators and what that is. And I don't know if you have your paperwork. I thought it was actually going to be part of the agenda, but it didn't end up being there. So I was just wondering if there were any questions on this, but it was a lot of study about the importance of teachers, especially for influencing student outcomes in disadvantaged or, disadvantaged or disengaged or whatever you call it. Sorry, didn't think I'd be nervous. Yeah.
Actually, it is attached, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so I didn't know if
for all
but
students.
it basically, if you put all this together, teachers make all the difference, and this proves it. All this information and paying teachers who have 5 years of experience, they basically don't really, they didn't say they don't know what they're doing, but they're basically saying, if you lose a teacher, if you're getting teachers in their first or second year, and you're not keeping them after the 5th year, you're not doing yourselves any favors, because they're basically going to somebody else, and at that 5th year, so 5th year to 20, they figure, is the prime. And you really need to retain them. You need to keep them, and, pay the money to retain them. That was one of the big things. So, there were just a lot of good things about, they're gonna fund SNAP this year. There's enough, the legislators are together in the Ed and Agricultural Committee, so that we're gonna actually have SNAP money and all those monies. So it was a lot of politics, the equity conference was sort of like 21st century education, where the second one was more 20th century education. So it was, and we could talk more about that, but a lot of job things and JAG and a lot of stuff came out about jobs. And I'd love to sit down with a couple board members and Melissa and go over some of that, because there's some really more ideas that we can come up with. So there's another conference March 31st to April 1st, and that's the actual national one in Philly. So if anybody wants to go for the day, I'm figuring we're going for the day. So
There
you
were
guys
no
will-
single-day registrations for that conference. It's
Well,
only free.
how much?
Email.
Oh,
Per day?
that's the only thing.
We did email them for one-day prices. I'll recommend that.
Okay, great. Because there's some really great classes, and the speakers were amazing. The speaker for this one, I drilled down on some of the information in the teachers, the keeping the promise to all teachers and effective teachers, and that's what part of this is, and the other paperwork. So that's the background information, and all the background information is amazing too. So if you want any of that, I can get it for you. So that's kind of it. Anybody have any questions, anything you read? I know it's a lot of stuff, but 4 days.
Thank you, Kim, for taking the time to go. We really appreciate it. I'm just curious, you mentioned JAG and some other schools down there. Did you get to talk to anybody where they've actually started their program and how well it's running?
There's places in like Irvine, California that are working with corporations to come up with actual day-to-day. The problem with jobs is so many jobs are going to be AI and robot driven. 2 to 5 to 10 years. All the jobs that we see now, that especially kids who don't finish school are going to end up in. They're not going to be there. So they're just trying to come up with new ways with corporations to figure out what the jobs are going to be in the future. And there's all these different things that you can do. And there's a wonderful school in Camden, but it's a medical school and it's high school. And there's just all kinds of things. Now Camden gets a lot more state aid than we do, but there's a lot of ideas for satellite schools but they don't have to be physical buildings anymore.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any else questions?
I had one other one, Kim. They said about retaining staff after 5 years, which is a wonderful thing. Did they give you the idea, but did they tell you how you're supposed to fund it or give you avenues for funding such ideas?
Not funding specifically, just that if you're gonna spend money on anything, don't skimp on the teachers. I mean, because of all the things that you spend money on, the things that they can prove that kids who relate to their teachers and the teachers who can relate to a child and say, you can learn this, especially in economically disadvantaged areas, those teachers make the difference. And when I say 21st century learning, that's basically it. We're not, the rote, repeat whatever. The teachers who are out there who can touch them emotionally, the socially emotional learning is huge. All of this stuff is making such a difference, and teachers who use it have to be retained. So it's more about just spend it on, don't spend it on something else, spend it on teachers. But no, they don't, they basically said, there's a million, there's $1 trillion debt, and the tax cuts, all these changes, there's no money. That's basically what they said to us. There's no new money.
The difference is we need to provide a balanced budget.
We need to provide a balanced budget, and that's the sad part, because I agree about retaining people and paying them well. However, state mandate, state fund, no. Federal mandate, federal funding, no. So again, it's back in our laps to do a balancing act, and that's sad.
It's $70 billion is spent on public education. It's 500 million. It's something like, what was it, 50 million children and 90,000 school board members. There's a ton of money spent on these kids. We just have to do better at what we spend it on.
Thank you, Ken. All right, moving on, item 12, committee reports. Item A, instructional. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse my blunders tonight, people. All right, item 11, residence forum. This is on agenda items only. Board policy 0167 encourages community participation in every meeting. However, the board requires that the public respect a reasonable time limit when commenting on agenda items. Would anyone like to speak tonight? Yes, yeah. Please come up to the podium and just state your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is Tracy Coverdale. I live at 410 National Union Boulevard. My daughter is Katie Coverdale. She's a senior this year, and I'm here on her behalf. She's a girls manager for the basketball team, and they're playing, so she couldn't be here, but she really wanted to be here. So I'm going to tell you, I'm speaking about the honoring pupil achievement board policy. So a few things that she wanted me to say was that the policy, the 8-semester policy, would not negatively affect her school year. She's here to learn, and finalized rank in her mind is completely independent of her stresses. She's worked very hard in the last 3.5 years, yes, but she doesn't expect any less. She knows other schools who push their high school students to more extreme limits. While adults may sympathize or struggle to understand how hard we work, this is what's expected. If a student can't take the pressure for one more semester, I don't believe they will be college ready. This is being realistic. This work here is nothing compared to college. This does not just affect 2 people. It frustrated me to see some adults generalizing about the work ethics of average students, predicting that they don't care. Students care. Students who are not even close to the top 10 care. This new policy will affect their performance after the second marking period. And so that's basically how Katie feels. Really, this is true. You're in school for 4 years. You're not in school for 3.5 years. You should be working for 4 years. College, you don't work for 3.5. You work for the whole 4 years. And it's true about the studies with the attendance dropping. That once the kids know their rank is solidified, boom, they don't have interest to come anymore to school. I myself just retired in June after 32 years of teaching, and most of that was in high school. And that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what you see. Maybe announcing it at the end of the year is more motivating for the kids to come, for all the kids to come. And also class rank, with the students not knowing their class rank. I know Katie and I know other kids are applying for scholarships, and they want your transcript and your class rank. Well, I'm hoping if the class rank has not been released, that these kids are not going to not get the scholarship because of that. That's a pretty important one. I also was wondering if you announce anything like earlier, before the end of the school year, what their rank is. You can say with the caveat, you must maintain your grade point average till the end of the year to get your valedictorian and salutatorian. So you don't have to say, okay, we're going to announce the class ranks in February, and now that's it, and that's carved in stone, and anything that happens is too bad. That's really not fair to everybody. And colleges do that on all the acceptance letters she's gotten. The last paragraph, you must maintain this grade point average. We're going to have get your transcript in the summer, and you know, if you don't keep up these grades, you're not getting into college. Well, same thing. I mean, it's not unfair to hold it to announce it at the end of the year. It's really not. I guess that's basically it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Maria. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, Mr. Bradley?
Oh, I'll sit over here then. No. You were up first. Oh, you go first. Okay.
All right.
I'd like to go last.
Jamie?
Did you guys miss me? All right, I wanted to speak about the calendar. The calendar is kind of chaos. It's all over the place with the site. Like, for example, I love the little app where I can check my daughter, her grades and everything. And then I click on there, and there's a nice little link that says calendar. So I click calendar, school year. Oh, look, it's 2014. Like, that's unacceptable. I don't know who's in charge of it. I don't care. But people are always, why are people always asking these questions? Because you gotta go 4 different places to find the calendar. It should be like all nice and simple. And the reason I brought it up, because I was looking, I don't like our calendar. I think I understand that we need to be there 180 days, and I understand that the teachers require in service days and such. But we had kids get out of, Christmas break, they're off for 10 days. 5 or 6 days before that, their minds are already gone. Most of them, even mine, who loves school, our mind's already gone. They come back, they're back in school for like 2 weeks, then they have another 3-day weekend. And then, now it's winter time and we have weather, which it was up to me. I don't care if it's 2 foot of snow, you get your butt to school, but obviously the things changed. And then we have this ridiculous 5-day break in the middle of February. Right after the kids finally started going again, we have a 5-day break. And then surrounded by the 5-day break, as it worked out, we had a snow day, delayed opening, and an early dismissal. How are these kids supposed to get any kind of rhythm and any kind of thing? We talked about it, and I think it all ties into the what we're talking about with kids kind of taking their foot off the gas. They can't get into a rhythm. They're over a 6-week period, they're out more than they're in. I understand. There's no need to have President's Day is 1 day. So a 3-day weekend, fine. But to add that Thursday and Friday in, there's got to be another time. Not during when you're going to have snow days, and not within 6 weeks or 5 weeks of having Christmas. I just think that it's, as soon as the kids get going again, they get stopped. And I think that's absolutely horrible for learning. I think it screws up, their mojo, their rhythm, and I think it has an effect. I never had that. I mean, I'm not 100 years old, but I never had that. We had a 3-day weekend, and that was it. I don't get it. So that I have an issue with. The second thing that I wanted to speak on quickly was I love what the lady said about what her daughter said about, I think it's very important that these kids keep going and not stop in February in their senior year. I mean, I don't know what kind of life experience you would get if you go to a job and then you're like, oh, I only got 5 years to retirement, let me stop working. So I think it shows a good work ethic, and it shows a good continuation that they're expected to finish out their 4 years and not, like she said, 3.5. So basically that's kind of trying to be quick, but I was rambling with that.
I'm going to make a real quick comment on that,
Yeah.
Mr. Korn. So next year, the proposed calendar, we do not have that time in February off. The only day off in February next year would be the 17th, which is President's Day.
Perfect.
The other piece of it is we also try to emulate some of the calendars that are local, like Southern, and because we have teachers here, but their own children may go to those other districts, and it's difficult for them if we're on a completely different schedule to get childcare and to have someone with them if they have little ones. So we do try to stay consistent as much as possible, but I agree with you. We try to limit those days in the winter months because we don't know what we're gonna have to tack on for snow days. So next year, we only have the one day of President's Day.
I hope we can get that, you know, like I said, maybe it's just me that is completely illiterate with it, but when I click on the thing right here, this is 2014, that's a lot of years to not be caught up.
Is that the app you're looking at, the Pinelands app?
Yeah, and it's the same thing on my computer. So, I mean, this is what I would like to go to for
I
everything.
know the website's fine, but I'll have someone from the tech team get a hold of you tomorrow.
Okay. And, yeah, that's absolutely perfect. I appreciate the calendar next year. If I'd known, I would have. And also, as part of the whole process, what we're doing here, Southern and those guys should be following us, not the other way around.
We're getting there.
Mr. Bradley? Sure, come on up.
Good evening. I just wanted to also express my opinion regarding the student ranks and locking that in. Our wildly important goal for the board has been to improve attendance. All right, and you take a look at the State Board of Education report back from, I believe it's 16-17. We had chronic absenteeism of 33%. Take a look at the grades, as always the seniors are the worst. When that's in any school, they have more opportunities to leave, etc. I think if you lock it in February, you're giving a great disincentive to come to school. It also becomes a problem with their work ethic. You get the classes, they start taking their days off, so they try to do, you know, group activities, but half the group's not there, one day or a third's not there the next day, and you can't do those activities. And for students, such as you mentioned with Katie, it's hard to, you know, if you really enjoy school, your classmates are taking days off and they're basically eroding in classes, etc. In addition to that, and I always use running examples, they don't give out the medals for the marathon at mile 24, it's 26.2. There may be somebody who's a late bloomer run something down. It may not be somebody in the top 10. It may be somebody getting into the top 20, in the top 20%, which may affect their, you know, getting into the college they want or scholarship money. They should all have to go the whole distance and do that. That's what the reward's for, is being, you know, top student for all 4 years in the school. Okay, and it makes, if they have to keep working, it's better for them. It's better for the teachers. It's better for the attendance. So I hope you'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening?
Rick Miller up the Sandpaper. I have quite a few questions, actually. When I came into the school for this meeting, I'm glad to say that our basketball team won.
Nice.
I'm sad to say that they're playing in the junior high gym, because we were told that the high school gym would be ready towards the beginning of January.
Excuse me, Mr. Mellera, this isn't an agenda item? The
It's
question
not.
that you have?
Well, we were just talking, okay, then I will bring that up later.
Okay.
Here's an agenda item. Is the bid on openings, is that an agenda item?
Yes.
Okay. This is what I was going to bring up. We've been running behind constantly on projects. We were told that the gym would be ready towards the beginning of January. It's towards the beginning of March. We were told that the tennis courts would be done by the end of September. They weren't done for the fall season. We were told that the school, the work on the junior high bathrooms was going to start last summer. I'm glad that our board president isn't here, because she hated me when I wrote a story that said it was behind schedule. But it was. They didn't get the parts, and the work didn't start until fall. So what I'm saying is we've been constantly behind schedule. So my question is there a contingency plan if the school isn't open on time? And second of all, would you consider holding back on the blacktop for a year? Because that has to be the last project because of heavy construction vehicles going over it. But if we continue to run behind schedule, it's going to be a mess with that blacktop. So that's my question. You could talk about it later, I'm just saying. Because I do have some other things. This is much friendlier question, I suppose.
Sure.
Memorials, you're doing away, it looks like to me, from my preliminary reading of this, of not lowering the flag to half-staff for a day for longtime members of the teaching staff, et cetera, who passed away. And board members, too. So you're giving up on your own opportunity to have the flag lowered for a day. But I think if that's on the agenda, and I think if I were a teacher here 35 years and suddenly had a heart attack in class, I'd sure like that flag lowered for a day. So later you could discuss it, but why are you getting away with that? To me, it seems like a nice benefit to a loyal employee. And then the final thing, which is on the agenda, and this is the most serious question, is you're having a reduction in force, laying off the head of special ed. I went through all of the departments and looked at the numbers of administrators and teachers in each one, and I'm seeing, 20 in the math department, 23 in English, the core subjects, maybe 15 in science, whatever. Special ed had far more administrators and teachers than any other department. And I'm wondering how you could possibly eliminate the position of department head of special ed. And again, you can address that later. If you don't, I'll come back at you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And I am going to comment on your last question. That is a personnel issue, so we're not at liberty to discuss that.
But are you eliminating the position?
No, but I'm not at liberty to discuss. It's on the agenda the way it is.
Very good, thank you.
The other thing I'd like to speak to just briefly, and I don't know if Dr. McCooley wants to jump in too. The gym has been finished.
Right.
Okay? It was because of the situation outside around the gym that presented a danger.
I understand that.
To any
But
spectators,
the idea was
public that would come to watch an event.
I understand that the gym
So
was
that was
finished.
beyond our control.
But no, I'm just saying that generally speaking, it was told that it
Did
would,
you want to add anything?
it would open in early January. It didn't. I don't care if it was inside, outside, or Venus flying into the side of the building.
I think
It was behind schedule.
Yeah, I think she answered your question. This is not a back and forth debate. We clarified that for you. It is ready to be opened. We chose not to open it at this point.
Okay, well, you have a basketball game.
Any other questions for public forum? Agenda items only. Okay. Item 12, committee reports. Instructional. I need a motion to approve items A1 through A12 for approval this evening.
Motion made.
Second.
Any questions? Mr. Bonnicky?
We're having a discussion?
Any questions?
Oh, okay. All right. I do have a question
Come on, guys.
in regards to 5540. I heard the people this evening, I appreciate their thoughts, but just like the gentleman talked about the marathon, does the distance of the marathon change at the end? And these kids have gone through 3/4 of the year with the expectations that were in place. And I do not object to changing the policy. I would like to see it begin July 1. I'm asking if we could change the start date of the policy.
I'm going to disagree with part of that, though. They were made aware of this earlier in the school year. It's just being memorialized now. This is the second reading now. And parents were made aware of this in December.
December or January did the letters go out?
The letter went out in January. It was in a newsletter in December. And the students were made aware of this also.
And like I said, I just feel that this late in the game, to change the rules, I just will state that I'd rather see it start next year. I do not disagree with the policy. I disagree with the implementation of now.
And I echo the same sentiment, to change the rules mid-year. I mean, there's no crisis that needed its attention, but for next year, sure, I mean, you know the rules, you know what the kids are up against. And I sent you an email that I'm not gonna discuss tonight, because it's for future thought, for those more the numbers that you provided earlier, to look at and garner some info for who's absent, what group, it's the 10%, the 25, the bottom 20, or bottom 25%. So that's all information that will help attendance down the road, but I'm curious to see more information on the top 2% that are vying for top 10% for class rank. I'm curious to know how many kids really care about their class rank or are aware of really working towards that top 2% of their class. And again,
I mean, I would say from, well, the information that we presented tonight, we based it on last year. What we did show was that once they got their ranking, they didn't care about coming to school as much. No, there was a trend. We went over that last month, that there was, we looked at a 4-year trend, and once the class rank was determined, the students, their grade point averages fell off and they didn't come to school as much.
So how long were they working under that policy? How long were they, the rules were the rules, for how long? February, second semester, third semester, they knew class rank was going to be issued. That's what it is. It's out there. They're going through their college searches with that information. They've worked for 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, 2 years. How long were they working in the current structure of value or class rank? Student achievement.
How long is
honoring pupil achievement.
How long has this policy been in place? Is that what you're asking?
Correct, where they would work towards, at the end of the second semester, was where class rank.
2012.
Yep, you can look on it. It says it right on there. 2012.
And how about prior to that?
2000.
And when did they work till the end of the school year?
No, that's the change.
Yeah, I don't know what the original policy was. You just have the date of revision on it.
Okay. So again, just saying that the kids worked under the current premise for this school year. And should it change, regardless of them being notified in December, a newsletter, that's not really a, anyway, regardless. For next year, I'm all for it. If it passes this year, the chips will fall where they fall, and so be it. The kids, I'm sure those who are going to attend school and continue to work hard with proper parenting and good parenting, they're going to be successful.
Well, we did hear from a mother of a student that is in that top 10
One of
who
245 students.
wants to go the distance.
The top 10 will go the distance.
No, they won't. You know, and here's what.
Hold on, and let me just say this. And again, if this was such an epidemic and a problem, why are we only looking at it now?
Because we hired Melissa to change things, and the school board.
But prior to her being here, if this was an epidemic, it should have come up. Where did it fail? Where did it stop?
The teachers know it now, that she's gonna change things. And I think we have to support that. Two times as many teachers who teach seniors want this to happen this year.
I'm not against it.
And I'm not arguing with you, I'm just saying
But I'm
this is
saying
what
it was such
hits
an
me.
epidemic, we only heard about it, hey, here's the policy.
All you're
Here's
really
the
asking
What's
to
the
do
actual harm
is work a little harder.
doing it this year though? What is,
Yeah.
so
work there.
So what you're telling kids now is you gotta work till the end of the year. You might have thought you were gonna get your class ranking a couple weeks ago, but now, we're telling you now, even if it's today, you gotta keep that nose to the grindstone. What is the harm in that?
And you know what those classes
So I
are the
have to
last
say,
semester.
I came into this meeting, I voted first reading to move forward. I left last month and came into this meeting thinking the exact same thing. We're changing the rules halfway through, it's not fair. But I have to say, the more I think about it, the more, what is wrong with
What's
saying you
wrong with
have to
it?
finish what you started, and we're
I
holding
have
you
no
to
problem
a
with that
business
either.
standard.
And
That's the
last
purpose of
semester,
And I
us
think
discussing it,
I
not
had to
just.
turn
It
the ship
only
too.
helps the student, and it only helps their work ethic, and it only helps student achievement. You can't
I'm not
quit
against the
early.
I'm not against the work ethic.
They don't get a vacation till summer. That's all it means.
I also
Stephen,
think some.
go ahead, Stephen.
Yes.
Pat, that's
I was gonna
fine.
say, I also think some of the statements that have been made by our staff, last month it was Shannon that got up, that was profound, what she stated and what she said, and she's worked for seniors for a very long time. We had Mr. Bradley show up tonight, say a few words. The data that Melissa presented, that we got back on January 29th, and it was emailed to us, that spoke volumes, at least to me, because I was on the fence. I agreed, let's go through the first reading and let's see what happens with the data that's presented to us. And Kim's right. The majority of the senior teachers want to see this happen. And I have to be honest with you, I can't disagree with them. And what is the harm? I don't know.
Absenteeism with juniors and sophomores in that same time period.
Well,
Are we just looking at
And
seniors?
I don't have that data right here because it wasn't really relevant to this.
And part of my question was, so GPA, when does it end and when does it begin? So when I finish as a freshman at 3.52, do I begin my sophomore year with a 3.52 to build on that? Or does it restart at 0 every year?
Doesn't restart at 0.
Cumulative.
So if it's gonna follow me my 3.52 as a freshman, I begin my sophomore year with a 3.52. And again, that's gonna encourage, or not encourage students to work hard or not work hard to better their grade.
I think it's about setting expectations. for me.
Setting a tone for everybody.
Like I said, the good ones are going to come to school, the good ones are gonna finish the race. I'm just saying, changing it mid-year, you've changed the rules of the race, and those kids have already planned in their head as seniors.
What did they plan in their head? That's what I don't
Yeah,
understand.
maybe I'm
They
speaking
take
for the
half a
wrong
year
people,
off?
So I guess, again, to change the rule mid-year, it's gotta affect someone at some point, okay? So, as I gather my thoughts to get back to my topic of the top percentage of class is still going to come to school.
But isn't it true that the valedictorian was third last year?
But-
That's huge.
No, see, but you can't do
And the
that.
year before
That's not
was-
a,
Yeah, we have
that's
to
not
be
a
careful
valid
to talk about
comparison.
specific
Right.
students. But the other piece of it is what we heard from some students and we've heard from the teachers is, yes, that once the top, we're hoping that they're still gonna remain the same and the same ethic, but the overall educational environment has changed now. And that's what's impacting them. So when their peers are not coming to school because they already had their rank and they're part of a group that's supposed to be working on a project, and 3 out of the 5 days they don't come to school, they're not there to help with that project anymore.
Not
So
against
it is changing the overall environmental tone. So it's not only those top kids, it's all of them that really play a part in this.
As is the absenteeism.
I guess it is the principle of changing.
A half a year out of 4 years is a lot of time.
I understand
to-
that.
To say we're gonna coast.
But I'm gonna put it this way, I'm against the principle of changing the rules mid-year.
I don't blame you, I
They
understand.
started the race under a different rule.
I get
That's
that
all.
too,
I get
but
that.
I think the reward for me outweighs some kids thinking they don't have to come to school the second.
Well, I hope you reach the bottom 25% as well.
And I
Again,
think
that's another
change
topic
sometimes
that's
just has to
included.
happen. And it sounds like to me, that's what it feels like. When you have that many teachers, I mean, I counted, it was 70 to 29 or something. It was really high.
And have we looked at the attendance of our
listen to
teaching
that.
staff?
I do. I had to turn the ship. I voted no the last time, but all
I
the
think that's a
evidence is
topic
there.
for another
Yes.
discussion. This is about the students.
Oh,
Stephen, did you have a
and it's
question?
setting examples, and the examples that should be set. And I think some of this is self-correcting, which is a good thing, and I agree with going from the 20 sick days to the 16. So that's gonna correct some of it too. My biggest thing is, my position is changing the rules at the end of the game.
Change is gonna happen in life. They have to adapt.
Stephen?
Yeah, it's gonna happen in life, I agree, but
Excuse me, Stephen has, yeah, Stephen?
Yeah, I think I was conflicted, again, I think like Karen going into today and Tom's argument and Jeff's argument, it's a strong argument. And there are, on the other hand, when I came in today, there was the other strong argument that the ranking should be a valid representation of what is, and our system is not. So you had 2 competing strong arguments. And I was conflicted until Mr. Bradley spoke tonight. And Mr. Bradley, again, talked about the impact, if we continue the policy this year, the impact on absenteeism. And we have a goal in our district to reduce absenteeism. So when we have conflicting strong arguments, supported by Tom and Jeff on one side, and then the unfairness on the other side. We have a responsibility as a board to advance our goal to reduce absenteeism. If we pass the motion to extend this to the 8th term, which is on the agenda, we are supporting our goal of reducing absenteeism, because that's the only thing that we can do. So from my vantage point, it's tilted now in that goal we have. We have a goal, reduce absenteeism. If passing this policy will reduce absenteeism of the seniors and therefore reduce our numbers and get us up to a state level which we want. So that's the deciding factor for me tonight. I'm in favor of this policy just because we are committed to our district to reduce absenteeism, and this will help to do that. Even though I'm still somewhat conflicted and can see both sides, that's the defining point for me that I'm going to vote yes for.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Mr. Bell?
Mr. Bonnicky?
No on A1A and yes on A2 through 12.
Ms. Hennadel?
Yes on all. We're only doing one policy, one A and B, right, not all 10.
1 through 12.
1 through 12. It's still a yes.
Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
Mrs. Palladino?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes on all but A1A, that is a no, and I abstain on number 7.
Okay. Mrs. Papakua?
Yes.
Mrs. Chambers?
Yes.
All motions on that item carried.
Under item B, personnel, I need a motion to approve item B1 through B20 with its addition.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or discussion?
I would just like to point out to those listening or here that we added item B20. That is not a new position. That is is it fair for me to say? Stop me if I can't say this.
Keep going, I'll stop
Just
you.
so everyone knows, it's not an additional position. It's a replacement for one of our staff members that's retiring.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I will add that, thank you, Mr. Donio. Originally, this position was on the agenda. We did remove it today because there was some concern with the county office. We currently call the position an Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction, that's Dr. Stevenson. We have a new county superintendent who was not approving that title and wanted us to call it an Assistant Superintendent. It's exactly the same contract that we originally had on there. Everything is the same. We are merely changing the title. So that person on the agenda tonight is Jana Fresca, and we're very happy to have her.
And I think it's important to note, you're changing the title at the specific direction of the Commissioner's representative of the Department of Education to you to do so.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, Mr. Bonnicky?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
Mrs. Palladino?
Yes.
Mrs. Papakua?
Yes, with the exception of item 15, I will abstain.
Noted. Mr. Williams?
Yes, except for item 14 is a no.
All others are yes?
Item 16 is a no. Item 17, I'll have a discussion later about that next. And on item 20, very important position. I think it'll be great for this district moving forward, and I am absolutely in favor of Ms. Fresca.
And to clarify, you voted yes on 17
Yes.
as well? mentioned the number, but I just wanted to clarify that was it.
I'll have a discussion later about that with backgrounds.
So I'm gonna have you as abstaining from that vote.
Yeah.
Noted?
Is it 17? Well, depends on which agenda you look at.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
All motions carried?
16.
Under item C,
Except for-
operation.
Was it 16 that you abstained?
16.
As the
On
agenda is
the-
published.
Yeah.
So 17,
Public
yes.
agenda.
I have no issue with 17.
No issue with 17, you just want to abstain, you're saying no
No.
to 16, right?
I had no on 14 and 16, abstained from 17.
Yep.
We good? Okay. Under item C, operations, I need a motion to approve C1, facility usage.
Motion.
Second?
Questions or comments?
What is 1B Conrad University soccer? What does that entail? Is that a local? Is that a,
It looks like this.
see, there's a
Did
zero
that
fee?
one come through?
No, I did
I
not.
don't think we
I
normally,
apologize.
is that outdoor?
It's
I don't
two
think we normally
specific
charge
dates.
for
Just
outdoor.
2 dates, 3/16 to 9/17?
It says soccer practice. If that's outside, we don't normally charge for any use outside.
No, he's asking what the organization is.
Yeah, I've never heard of the
Okay,
local.
but I was
But
just,
no matter what it is, you're saying we don't charge?
Yeah.
Okay.
if it's outside.
I don't know, Mr. Kubricki, we can get you the information. I don't have the facilities use back up on that, but I can email that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Bonnicky?
Yes.
Mrs. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
Mrs. Palladino?
Yes.
Mrs. Paklakua?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Under item D, report of the board secretary / business administrator, I'd like a motion on items D1 through D11.
Motion? Second.
All right, questions or comments?
Just the one, could we have on item 7, what the total amount? I mean, it's been every month, it's been different things, and it's been ongoing forever. We never received the total amount of donations for the school board.
We do have a total amount. I did not prepare that for you, but I can email it to you
That's all.
after the board meeting.
I think you might have sent an update to us.
Now there's more stuff, so I
Okay,
don't,
gotcha, of the running total?
yeah.
The amount, there's one of the items in this section of the agenda is item 10, scoreboard.
Mhm.
All of that money was raised through donations through the local community.
That's what I wanted to thank everybody for.
Yeah. And so these are, some of these donations might be included in that amount. I think we were, right, the last time we looked at that, the total amount donated was over $20,000. Any other questions or comment on this section? All right, roll call, Mr. Bonnicky?
Yes.
Mrs. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes, I'm going to abstain on 2A and B, and everything else, yes.
Abstaining 2A and B, vote yes, everything else? Okay, Mr. Kubricki?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
Ms. Palladino?
Yes.
Ms. Paklakua?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Item 13, residence forum on general topics only. Again, please state your name and address if you're coming up to the podium. Does anyone wish to speak this evening?
Yeah, I'm coming up. I'm going.
You can.
Sorry, I'll be quick.
That's okay. You don't have to hurry.
Oh, I'm tired.
Hello, Kim Farrell from Eagleswood. I had 3 things, I think. One is on a very happy note. I'm proud to say that our Pinelands Alumni and Friends Foundation is up and running. And we have had one meeting. We're having another one tomorrow. If you go to Pinelands website, there's a link that you can go on and check everything out. It's a great thing. It's very positive. I hope
that you all will join and get involved. The next thing is, I was just curious if, I don't know who would know the answer, probably Mr. Bennett, but are they planning on having a Mr. Pine this year? Because I know it's hard with not really having
Yes.
a school. Yes. Where at?
That depends on everything, but probably the gym, especially here with other places.
Okay, good, because the cap.
Actually use locker, changing rooms, they even use some sort of current structure to enable the kids to actually use the back gym to flow in. We've had a lot of discussions on how to make it work, to still have, it's a major fundraiser.
Yes.
And not just a traditional event too, so that has really helped their
Good.
work, so.
I was just concerned about the cafeteria. I feel like that's kind of like the go-to.
No, that'll definitely get you.
Awesome. Okay. And then graduation. What's the plan?
Do you want to give an update, Mr. Ben?
Sure.
Sorry, I know you.
Sorry. That was the counter.
It's hard to hear you, Mr. Bannon.
No, he doesn't have a voice.
He doesn't feel well. so-
Report out on it next month. No, go ahead.
Thanks, Tom.
Sorry. I'll let you off the hook.
No, I don't stand up.
This is a big
So,
deal.
it is, trust
If
me.
my kid,
I know.
hopefully my kid gets
Kristen
there.
will. Don't worry, don't worry.
Gotta
We'll
work
be
the
there.
whole year.
So, we had met with the county, we actually have, already have booked, we saw last year before we had to move it inside, we had a fantastic setup on the field where we actually, the county, rec department has a stage. We've already procured that stage, we had representatives from the county come here to survey different areas of our site, to come up with, I think, 3 different locations on our grounds we can do. That includes grounds at junior high and grounds at the high school. That we said to them, what can we do? Here's our layout design. Because part of the issue is with getting the stage is making sure the ground is hard enough for use, because obviously it's a pretty heavy stage. So we had, Mr. Blum was nice enough with his grounds crew to meet us out there with the county representatives. Like I said, we found about 3 different locations that we can use. That regardless of the next phase of work that's going to come on, because one of the things that we were finding out was where we intended to have the stage from where it was last year will not be an option this year because of the next phase of work, which would be asphalt laying and so on. So we have additional locations we can use. So it'll only be outside, because that's the one thing is because of the auditorium obviously being closed off, there's no chance for us being able to have a graduation indoors. So we'll have to obviously encompass our rain date, which we're working with Project Graduation advisors to plan multiple dates for that as well. And that's all the planning stages. So we will have an outdoor graduation. It'll be on our grounds. We have multiple sites that we can use depending on how wet the ground is, depending on everything else. And obviously there's springtime, as you know, it can be quite damp. But it will be here, outdoors, beautiful stage. We already have the chair's ordered and everything else. And we're very much looking forward to that.
But we definitely can't have it on the football field.
It will not be on the football field. But trust me, actually, to be honest, from seeing the way it was set up last year with the stage, I don't know if you had a chance to see the way it was done. It creates a very intimate event, and a lot of the feedback I had was, I don't know if from people, they actually said they felt it was actually a better setup than having on the football field, because it gave a better opportunity for parents to actually see their child walk across, because they have a stage as well. So it really gave better picture opportunities, photo opportunities, and really brought the parents more into the event. And also changed from my understanding, since I've been here, we've only had indoor graduations based on weather. But since before, a lot of times the speakers were also speaking to the parents only. The stage really changed things and had the speakers were speaking to the students and the parents. So we really did a great job, and some of our grounds crew really worked a lot with us last year to develop a spot and a seating arrangement that would really work out and make it a special event, as it should be for our students, our families. We're definitely going to have it again this year.
Do you know how many tickets will be allotted?
Well, there will be technically, because it'll be outdoors, you'll have, the seated tickets, and then once those seats will fill up from those people, there'll be other people obviously able to fill in behind. They just won't be guaranteed seats.
Okay, so do you know, like, if there's, let's say, 200 kids graduating, everybody gets 4 tickets guaranteed for?
We're still figuring out those details, because one of the things we did last year, we were talking into the grounds crew, is we also had to move all of the smaller bleachers to the location to create more of an amphitheater environment. But again, when we were talking about having it outside last year, they had the initial, let's call it immediate family seats, but there would have probably was outdoors, you'd be able to completely fill in behind and standing room if you bring chairs and stuff like that. We increased our chair order from what it used to be to enable not just our bleacher seats, but also have additional seats for families as well. So we actually figured out, we ended up having more seats available, I think, this way than we would have had in the past using the stadium.
But you haven't really come up with it, no?
Well, I'm
Because
just
it's quick. I mean, it's like coming. It's like
No, we're
it's like
finalizing all
this
that
school.
too. I'm just waiting to
Okay.
finalize the details in terms of the bleachers.
Is there a way that
Members are
there's,
coming.
is there a way like a newsletter or something?
I send a newsletter every month. I don't know if you've been checking your email, but there's a newsletter every month to all the families that get sent out.
But Mr. Bannon, perhaps when you have this finalized, you can send a Blackboard blast out to
Oh, I
families
will.
saying, check the newsletter, or maybe you can even
Absolutely.
put that information
That will
in there.
actually be, when the graduation, we always send a letter home to
Sure.
the families every year, letting them know all the major details about that, and that will be coming too. It's not a problem.
Do I dare ask about the color of the gowns? Are they choosing?
The student.
Maybe if you could follow up with Mrs. Farah tomorrow, would that be okay if he can call you in the morning? Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak this evening?
Gina Praska, 63 Vincent Court. I just wanted to thank the board for your support in this new position for me. I'm really, really excited. Thank you for having faith in me and believing in me. Very big shoes to fill with Dr. Stevenson. She's done a phenomenal job. She's taught me so much. I hope I can continue her legacy here and with all the great things she's done with instruction. I just wanted to thank my family, my sisters here tonight, my family, the staff who's been supportive, and also the students. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I'll be like really quick. James Becker, 8 Running Court, Little Lake Harbor. I just want to invite you all with Yearbook and the golf team. We are doing a golf tournament on April 14th. It starts at 12:30. We're going to have lunch, dinner. There's going to be a 50-50 raffle. There's also going to be a gift auction on the tail end of that. The cost is $125. We're looking for golfers and full sponsorships. So anybody who's interested can come on out, and I'd like to see some of you guys out there.
Can you forward me that, Jim, can you like send me a little email blurb and I'll forward it to the board?
Sure.
Where's
it going to be?
It's going to be at CO's.
CO.
CO, sorry.
Yeah, just a little couple like bullets and I'll forward it out to the board.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Jan?
Hi, Jennifer O'Rourke. I just have a couple of quick questions. First, I want to say, Dr. McCooley, I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I'm really happy with everything so far. I don't really come here with a lot of questions, but I just wanted to know, I'm having a problem with the attendance thing. I think the amount that we have is fine. I don't have a problem with that, but would you happen to know when the attendance committee gets together? Because one of my sons is not getting credit for gym, and he's an athlete, and so he's kind of concerned, like, is he gonna foul gym, or?
So if you contact the guidance department,
okay,
they could set that up for you. Typically, we do most of the students towards the second half of the year because what they're finding is if they do the credit recovery or the appeal too early, then the student will take more days off again. So what you can do is if you call the guidance department, Karen Kenny is wonderful. She can guide you through that process, but tell him not to worry about it.
Okay, good. All right, and the other thing, I didn't have a question, but I know that you had mentioned something about, not having the gym open because we were behind on schedule. I just want you to know I'm cool with not being on schedule and not pushing for that because I was one of the moms of the kids that were in the class, and take all the time you need to get it done right. I don't want to push it in there just because it's a schedule. I think that's ridiculous. And the other quick question that I had was, that really wasn't a question, but.
Statement.
Yeah. Would you happen to know, I don't know if you know, I guess maybe you'll know this, but I don't know if I heard it right. when you said that there's no investigation for that, I know we're kind of beyond all this, and I was really not expecting to say this, but no, was there, the police only have an investigation going with him, or do we have a state investigation? Because from what I remember last year, I know you weren't here yet.
I know that Mrs. Hawk had spoken about this at an earlier meeting.
Yeah, I didn't, okay.
Situations that were here before I was here, that got passed along to the NJDOE, and really it's out of our hands.
Okay.
Then the other situation that happened once again, we reported something and then it was turned over to the local police, so that's out of our hands as well.
Okay, so they're the ones that are involved with that then right now. And the last question was, I've been asked this a couple of times at meetings and we still just didn't get an answer, and maybe because maybe you would be able to get this. I wanted to know the product that was used on the roof, like the initial one, we never got an answer as to what that chemical was. And I know we've asked it at a couple of meetings and we just don't know. I don't know.
So, yep, and I'm not trying to, I don't want to answer incorrectly. Once again, I wasn't here then,
Yes, I
but
know.
if you can shoot me an email, because
Okay.
my information's right on the website, it's easier
Okay.
for you to shoot me an email.
Okay.
I can get some information or call you with Mr.
All right.
Brown tomorrow and follow up.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, thanks. That's it.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jamie.
All right, a couple things, and one actually probably be more, there is, you know, with the Facebook thing, and I actually got myself sucked into it because I just can't stand ignorance. But it seems like there's a couple of these sites, their only job is to basically bash you guys, bash the school, bash Little Egg, bash whatever. The problem I have is with this one that is actually titled Little Egg Harbor Elementary and Pinelands School Site. Now, it's my understanding that that has no affiliation with the school. How are they even allowed to do that? And because people think that it's coming from you guys. And like, I never thought about it until I actually got in an argument with the moderator today. And I'm thinking, this guy is basically representing both Little Egg and Pinelands. And to me, that they need to, something should be sanctioned or something. Because information that's coming out is an opinion, but it's presented as if it's coming from both boards. And I have a problem with that. So how does that work? I was looking at
Bill, I'm
Mr.
going to
Attorney.
defer to you.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if this is working, but,
There you go.
Without the light, right? Without the light?
Without the light.
Without the light.
that's better?
No.
Yep, there you go.
There you go. Yes, no? Yes, no? Yes?
Coming.
That's why,
No, that was off.
That's why I went to law school.
Whoa.
The short answer is, if there is evidence that somebody is using a name, even whether it's registered as a trademark or a trade name, they're doing so in a manner to trade off of that name, you can make both application to both an internet service provider as well as a social networking site to ask them to change that name, or to at a minimum provide a disclaimer that this is not an official site and the views expressed do not express the views of this organization. In certain circumstances, we've had to represent school districts where we've actually had to threaten federal lawsuits with individuals who were putting out sites that they were trying to profit off of those. So I'm not familiar with this. I would ask that you send that information to Dr. McCooley, and she will send it on to us, and we will get that communications out to those appropriate social networking hosts or the internet service providers to demand that at a minimum provide a very clear disclaimer that this is not a representative. It's actually kind of interesting as well. It's actually incumbent upon every person, whether you work for the school or on the board or affiliated with the school, what have you, that you demonstrate that this is not an officially sanctioned site, unless it's the officially sanctioned site and you're the administrator. Otherwise, that is a requirement, and we can ask those social networking sites to insist upon that.
Okay, because that's what I tried to do. I told the admin that I'm like, you're not representing the school, I believe, and I called him out on it, and I told him I was going to report him, so he blocked me, so I can't report him. So, but yeah, it definitely says school site. Now, thank you. The next thing I have, what was I going to say? You guys, half of you I love, and the other half I want to strangle sometimes. The conversation that happened back and forth with this, we've identified a problem, okay, which Dr. McCoy was here to fix and whatever. We've identified a problem, and then the conversation that went back and forth about, well, let's wait on it, When you identify a problem, you attack it immediately. I am horrified that anybody would sit there and say, let's look at this, oh, well, 6 months from now, because that's how life works. We identified a problem, you fixed it immediately. The fact that there was even that discussion, now I appreciate what you guys did with your first reading and thought about it, and that was great. Okay, but to come here now and say that we're going to address this problem 6 months from now, what on earth was that? That was unreal, and I lost faith in some of you, and obviously you know which ones of you it was. But I was appalled that you would just look the other way. That's what we were teaching our children. Oh yeah, we'll just handle it down the road someday, not handle it immediately. So I wanted to say that because it really riled me up.
Well, let me advise you something, Mr. Carnes. We could not discuss it on board forums because we cannot discuss board business because then we violate our ethics. So this is the forum in which it is discussed.
It wasn't about the fact that it was discussed.
That's good. Not about the board. Thank you. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Yes, because I didn't have any of my questions answered earlier. I was hoping you would discuss some of them. First of all, the nice simple one. Why no half staff anymore? Why did you get rid of that?
Do you want me to take that? Yeah, go ahead. I'm not aware of any specifics, so.
The policy that we approved tonight?
No, the flag at half staff, because of the death of employees or students, whatever.
It did change. I was hoping somebody would.
Well, the policy is not saying that we can't. Typically what happens is we get emails from the state, from our local county, and they tell us when we have to lower our flag at half for certain events, but it's not saying that we can't for other things.
No, but it used to say that you had that policy of 1 day and stuff, and now you wipe that out. I just didn't understand why. It sounded pretty cool to me.
I came from Strasbourg. Yeah.
The policy that we approved tonight did not wipe that out.
Well, it's gone from it's crossed out now.
And it was replaced with similar
language. But not the exact language.
It just says.
Okay, so you still could, but
Yes.
Because I think it's a neat thing.
Yes. And that's mandated language.
Right. On to more serious matters, I'll ask again. I don't care, as I said, I don't care if it's because a comet flew into the wall. I gave at least 3 instances of the public being told something was going to be done at some time, and it wasn't. So, I'm just asking, is there a contingency plan if that high school isn't ready to open next September?
I think we're in a contingency plan right now. We have the 7th grade over in Little Egg. We've worked things out. We always work things out. We have no reason to believe that we're not going to be done on time.
Would the trailers still be here?
We're not removing them or shutting the electric off until everything is ready to go.
Okay, so you'll be mobile.
Sure.
That's all I was asking. I'm sorry that we can't get any sort of answer on the reduction in force. You said it's a personnel issue. We've always had discussions here about reduction in force, not a termination. It's just.
So I'm going to give you an overview of that decision.
Okay.
I've been here now since June of 2018. I've had the time now to do a careful analysis of all of the departments as well as our budgetary concerns.
Okay.
And I've decided to move the district in a different direction.
Okay, is it going to be shared services?
It could possibly moving forward. Right now, we have a consultant that you saw on the agenda approved tonight, and he will be here part-time per diem.
And Dr. McCool, you would agree that, when evaluating that decision or recommendation that you made to the Board of Education, you did so, in compliance with the evaluation that you would do with any type of reduction in a position or abolition of a position, that is, that the efficiencies and the effectiveness from a budgetary standpoint as well as from an educational standpoint, that this was a decision you thought the Board of Education should make.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. And then, something that hasn't been mentioned at all, and that is the major reason I came here tonight. Committee reports, A, instructional. 5756, transgender students. Now, I understand that you had to adopt that policy. It is state law. You have no choice. But my first question is, the state sent out the guidelines to districts last September for that policy. I'm wondering why it wasn't put into effect until now.
You were.
Do you want to take this one,
Were
Bob?
you here?
We do have one. This is.
Yeah, first of all, I believe the Board of Education had a policy that
This is a
addresses.
change, yeah.
The change reflects what I believe your policy, and they have a policy service, provides recommendations with regards to policy. It's a policy service that's used by, I would probably say, the majority of school districts in the state of New Jersey. And they have done a new policy by reviewing that guidance. That guidance was very comprehensive, it was very extensive. It took a long time actually to come out of the commissioner's office, and it took a long time, I think, for the policy providers to evaluate how that language ought to look. That doesn't mean that there might still not be revisions to it, and then that's the thing about all policies. As the law changes, as we get better guidance, I think some of the concerns that were part of that guidance document that came from the Department of Education were then workshopped, so to speak, by that policy service, and this is the language that they ultimately recommended this Board of Education, as well as all the boards of education that use that policy service to adopt, and they just really came out with it just recently. So you would not be surprised if you were to look at agendas for the month of February and March for all the boards that use that policy service adopting this policy at this time.
And the Board of Education has had a transgender policy since January 2015.
And was it a similar policy in that they could use the bathroom of their own personal assigned gender?
It absolutely wasn't as extensive as this one is, as Mr. Donio was explaining.
So my final question on it is, have parents been told of this policy in any way, shape, or form?
Well, it's on our website, it's one of our policies, and now as on our board agenda, it's being updated.
Because it says to me,
We're following the same process we do for any policy.
I understand, it's just a very controversial issue. And most people, you know, when I get on, sometimes I make notes while I'm here, and then I watch the tape because you're all talking so fast I say, what the hell did I just write? So I go back to the tape to get the exact quote. And I look and I see like maybe 30 people check in, 40 people check in and see the board meeting. You know, attendance here is usually less than that. There's a whole lot of parents that aren't going to know about that policy. And I mean, it's going to be in the paper, they're going to know about it, so perhaps you're going to get some phone calls. But it's just something to me that you want to be really transparent on, because if a parent hears about it and doesn't like it, they're going to be ticked off. And like I said, expect phone calls.
Like you said, it's New Jersey.
I know, and I will say in that story, flat out, you had no choice.
You know, Rick,
There's no doubt
I'd
about
like
it.
to add, the last 6 years, I've been one of the board members that's been on the policy committee, and I served as chair for a few of those years. This policy has come across our table, I can't tell you how many times, at least a half a dozen. And this is the, I can't say final because I'm sure there'll be revisions, but this is the latest that has come out, and it is mandated language. I know we had our administration that was really looking into this, and it was actually spearheaded by Dr. Clark when our old superintendent was here, Dr. Banks. So it's not the first time that we've seen changes. They're constantly changing this. And as far as transparency, I have to agree with Dr. McCooley. I mean, it's there.
Right, but
It's there.
But people, yeah.
And I understand that, but you know what? That, we've covered us.
Okay,
We're
well,
covered.
and I'll cover it for the
Okay.
public because it will be a story. But and I will definitely say, it's not you, it's the state.
Right. And I can appreciate your.
And the
Well,
reason I'm
it is
concerned.
also us.
Well, the reason I'm concerned is, I'm certainly for the policy. I had a sister named Lori for 50 years, and now it's my brother named Ben. And I'm jealous because with the hormones, he can grow a better beard than me. I'm 64, and I guess I never reached puberty. But at any rate, so you can understand from a personal feeling how It is. The reason I think the public should be notified more, and I'll do it, more than just that little note, is because there might be some parents that absolutely feel that they don't want their child in there. They can't change state law, but perhaps they could homeschool and send them to a private school.
And that's a parent prerogative.
Right.
I appreciate
But they
the
have to
comments,
know about it.
And we've certainly
Right.
taken them under advisement. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, and go Cats. I hope that that's why your voice is shot, that you were rooting for the basketball team. Instead of
Anyone else
sickness.
wishing to speak public forum? Okay, then I guess I need a motion. Or no, actually board forum. Sorry, folks. Betty Ann, let's start with you.
Sure, I actually have something to say.
Okay. Please share.
I'm tickled to see that the basketball team won another home game. It's my understanding that they did not lose a home game last year, nor this year.
They lost this year.
They did lose?
Pleasant Borough.
All right. Well, their record probably was the best in the history of Pinelands boys basketball in that gymnasium. I would venture to say that next year you might have a hard time making them play over in high school. And kudos to our staff, the administration. I'll give a shout out to Will Sunderman. For the last 2 years, having 2 programs, junior high and high school, in one school, and they have pulled it off. What's that saying? Adversity doesn't make character, it reveals it. Without exception, when we've had an obstacle coming our way due to this construction project, Pinelands has figured out a way to overcome it. And what a great lesson to learn in life, that things don't always go the way you plan, and every once in a while you have to come up with a plan B or a plan C or a plan D, or however many plans that we're down. We're eventually going to get into that school, and we're going to have almost a brand new school, and it's the hard work of this board, of the administration and the staff, and the character of the students here that have made it something that is a good thing, a good learning experience. I'd also like to say that there's 9 people on this board, and I don't always agree with everybody, and the other 8 members will tell you that, but I do respect everybody's opinion and the opportunity that they have to voice their opinion. Many times what somebody else says actually affects the way I stop and think about something and even vote about something. So you may not like what you hear from all the board members. That's why there's 9 members here, to reflect different viewpoints, and they certainly have their right to voice their opinion. Congratulations to Gina, and God bless you. You sneezed a little while ago with a little giggle. I wanted to make sure you heard me, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Betty Ann. Tommy?
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. I'd like to thank our administration. We have been through a lot the past couple of years here at Pinelands, but I really feel strongly that we are moving as a unit and as a group together with our communities to move this district forward and make us a better place. And Gina, I know you've worked with Cheryl for a very long time. You've had your own department for a very long time, and I think it'll be a great addition to the Pinelands School District and making us a better place. Again, I'd just like to thank everyone, and I'd like to thank everyone for having their own views and opinions.
Thank you, Tommy. Kim?
Kudos to you guys, both of you. Betty Ann, I really like what you said, and you too, Tommy. Congratulations, Dina. I want you to talk to me about the workplace stuff I learned in Washington with the meeting. I'm going to sit you guys all down, and we'll have a meeting tomorrow night. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Kim. Jeff?
Thank you. Just a comment, and then we'll discuss it in the future. Again, just regarding absenteeism. Yes, it is an issue that we have as a board goal, a district goal, to decrease the amount of chronic absenteeism. Yet a quantitative goal is attached to that, and which is a measure goal using various means. And on the other side of that, a merit goal for a superintendent is attached to that
goal of reducing chronic absenteeism. Merit goal is one of which one is awarded monetarily for that performance of that goal. So I just want to put that information out there. I just want to make sure that we operate in that light. The updates come and follow our district goal. Our superintendent would be awarded a goal, and maybe that's why I'm so hard on that issue. When I see something changed in the middle of the school year, that's going to ultimately affect a monetary award to someone rather than actually look at the issue. And my question would just certainly be, does the top 10% of each class make up the majority of the absentee issue? Or is it another part of the class? That's why I was so hard about the policy of honoring student achievement was just hit up in the middle of the school year.
Thank you, John. Stephen?
Yeah, I listened to Betty Ann's comments just now, and I thought they were most appropriate, and she always has words of wisdom that ring true. So thank you, Betty Ann.
I'm old. Just
for
don't
those,
I would
those comments, because they were quite appropriate. I have a question for the board members. You know, one of my major areas of concern has been
Well, it's about, that's not one answer.
has been our starting times at the school. And I have maybe a bias in terms of that issue, but I am wondering, as a board, are we going to put together, or as the administration, are we going to have some type of committee to look at that issue in an unbiased manner, which can provide a report as to the appropriate starting times for our students that will not only be to their intellectual, but to their emotional and health benefits? Or are we prepared to ignore that for the upcoming year and just continue with the starting times we have in place this year? So I don't know, do we want to go there, or you want to say, Cabricki, shut up, we don't want to go there?
What's your suggestion?
My hope would be that we'd have some type of committee that would really do a fair and unbiased look at the issue and come to a recommendation through the superintendent to the board as to what their views are in terms of our starting time and what are the not red horses, but what are the, obstacles to different things. How does the public feel about things? What are the parents, the students? What does the research say? We've had a state report about 1.5 years ago, which is quite detailed as a good starting point, but again, that left it up to the districts to decide what they wanted to do, and I just want to know, as a district, do we have any intent to investigate that issue any further, or are we happy where we are?
Can I ask one more question? Does that mean you can't be on it?
That means I'm biased, so if I'm on it, we have to have somebody biased on the other side to balance that out. Otherwise, we have to have unbiased people on that committee who have no preconceived notion of the merits of a later starter time, or we have to have strong people on both sides.
I would do it.
Can I make a suggestion that maybe we talk about this maybe at our next meeting during workshop?
Put it on the agenda?
Whatever, well, to give everybody a chance to speak, okay, because this is your forum right now. Dr. McCooley, what do you think?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I would say my initial thought, as Mr. Kuberki was talking, is if you're really going to start something like this, I would ask the other boards of education that are affected by it, because we are on tiered busing and tiered start times.
Right.
So you might want to reach out to the other board presidents and see if they would like to be a part of the study.
Plus we share busing.
But I think before we would even do that, maybe as a board, we need to talk about it to see pros, cons, and where everybody stands on
I
it.
need information to talk
Okay.
about it.
And I will certainly, if that's okay with you, and if everybody agrees to that, it's something maybe for next month during workshop, I will certainly
We
let Sue know.
can't discuss it without being aware of the fact that
Yeah, and
it
that's why
has,
a committee to investigate all aspects.
it has
and come up-
effects, it has a ripple effect on all the other
Does.
schools. I wish I had a magic wand to fix that problem, because realistically, younger kids should be going earlier and the older kids should be going later. but I don't know when you factor in after-school sports and all the things that all the kids have to do, that it's even realistic to have a later start time. But I would certainly love to have the discussion, but it's more than just us saying, instead of starting at 7:20, we're gonna
Right.
start at 9:20.
As Melissa said, we have to have the data and the physical
Sure.
evidence in
Yep.
front of us and see how everything fits to be able to make a rational
So we'll
choice.
put it on the agenda for
Yep.
next month.
Does that sound okay? Is everybody okay with that?
But that's still just a discussion.
Just a
We
discussion.
wanna move forward
To
with
see,
this study.
right,
Yeah.
and everybody's opinion. And maybe in the meantime, think about it, mull it over. I know sometimes I need a little bit of time to think about things too and bring up some of the questions that I might have.
You were gonna
Okay.
say a glass of wine. is what you-
Yeah, really. Karen?
So I'm not as thoughtful. I would just like to thank our local businesses and give them a shout out for their donations. So we have New York Life again, our PBA support and urgent care, as well as New Jersey Jobs this time around, to supporting our district and giving money to the school board. I would like to echo congratulations to our basketball team. I'm happy they won, so it was good, happy to hear that. I would also like to say congratulations to our play that wrapped up this past weekend for a successful performance. And I would like to congratulate Gina, as well as this weekend, I'm an avid wrestling fan, and this weekend is, I think it's this weekend or next weekend. I might have my weekends mixed up
This
between high
weekend.
school and college. But we have 2 athletes competing here at the New Jersey State Wrestling Tournament down in Atlantic City. For the first time ever, there's a women's competition. So Olivia Mena will be competing in a Pineland singlet, as well as Evan Burton. And they will both be down in Atlantic City representing us. So good luck to them as well. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Karen. Christy?
Just want to congratulate Gina. And real quick off of what Jeff said, I believe, I know you just said that it was brought up in the middle of the year, but at our prior meeting, I think the teacher said this had been brought up for years in the past. And it kind of fell on deaf ears, or maybe there was more important things to get to. But I think Dr. McCooley actually took it to the next level and made sure it did happen for this year. So I think that's why it came up.
Thank you, Christy. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Just a couple things. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for your board forum. I think it's the first time that we've heard something from everybody here tonight, and I think that's refreshing. Okay, so I want to thank you for your comments. Secondly, I want to comment, Jamie, on something you brought up about the mobile app. You're right, it's obsolete, okay? I brought this up many years ago after it was first, during its inception. It was great, but it just kind of went by the wayside. So I'm really hoping, along with you, that maybe we can get that up, revamped, revised, and up to date, because you're right. It does reflect a lot of old calendars, old names of people that really are no longer in those positions. So thank you for bringing that up. Again, thank you to the donations, as Karen said. Our sports teams are doing great, phenomenal. So I'm not going to point at anyone, but congratulations and future, competitions that are coming up. I'd like to also thank Maureen Nooner. Dr. McCooley sent us the video, the JAG video that she graciously put together, because she is the teacher representative that's spearheading this new endeavor. And she's done a great job. And I'm looking for great things, and I think the board, we're going to be very surprised at this program and what it's going to do for us and our students, so that's great. Gina, congratulations. We're happy for you. Just on a housekeeping note, we have a Future Ready meeting on March the 5th at 4 o'clock. If anybody's interested, let Dr. McCooley know. We have quite a bit of attendance from both districts here and Little Lake Harbor, and this will be the 3rd meeting, Gina? 4th meeting? 3rd? 4th? Okay. So we're pretty much in the running, so a lot of good things are coming out of it. So if you're interested in attending, please let Dr. McCooley know.
I'm definitely going.
Okay, great. Our next regular board meeting is March 20th at 6 p.m. And board members, please mark your calendars, because Mrs. Friedman from New Jersey School Boards is coming down to give us a training program on Wednesday, March 27th at 6 p.m. So please keep that in mind. All All right, that's it, and
Good job.
oh, well, thank you. And you know what? Thank you for putting up with me. Sometimes it's not as easy as it looks, and you kind of get ahead of yourself. But anyway, I appreciate the having my back. Thank you, thank you. And Sue will be back at the next meeting. She better be. So anyway, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was my part. Okay,
42.
that's it, folks. Good night.
Eastern Standard Time.